Allen.
Positive yardage, though. That's
Yes,
the most important thing, Steve.
Allen, who ran for 148 yards last week against Windsor, becoming more of a focal point in the offense. 3-minute warning now for Mcmaster.
You've got to build. I mean, this is they're behind in this game, 17-0. But you got to build. And you hear this coach talk all the time, but it really is true, Steve. Play after play after play. Just live in the moment for the one play. Execution. There's no sport other than football where all 12 players have to be doing something, occupying space, getting a block, protecting the quarterback, a zillion things out there. They've got to continue to build, raise their confidence, and get more like the Marauder offense we know they're capable of.
So building off the momentum of that 12-yard Justice Allen run, Mcmaster with a first down. And if there's a positive for Mcmaster, it's one, their defense, and two, they're fortunate to be down only 17-0 when you take into consideration all things here.
But you don't want to take that defense for granted. They've been on the field far too much, in my opinion.
Pass, Dueck, complete. And a good open field tackle by Ajayi on Tuchinski, and it's just a short pickup on the play.
Yeah, Ajayi's going 6 foot 185, which I think may be a little bit good for him, but he's playing an outstanding game. Just really understanding what plays are coming at him and his tackling abilities. Hey, Xander Tuchinski's a big fella. Knew exactly where to hit him. Great defensive play.
2:30 and running to go here. First half, 2nd and 8. Andreas Dueck trying to get the offense going here. Empty backfield. Looks to the right, looks to the left, has Justice Allen, and Allen has work to do. And he gets tackled. Looks to be, Bubba, maybe 2 yards short of the first down marker.
Boy, is there ever a time? I mean, this is crazy. This is like a video game decision, but you know, if there was ever a time to think about going for it, and I just 3rd down and 1.
They're going to bring the punting unit on.
They're not going to take any chances. I was in Madden mode there.
Agoyevin is the lone return man for Priya Cannon. Marauder bounce picked up at the 31 and tiptoeing out of bounds at about the 34-yard line. A flag will fly again. 2:04 to go.
I'm wondering if that flag was just the courtesy of letting everyone know that he had actually stepped out of bounds. We'll find out, though.
Injured Marauder on the field is Enoch Penny Laurier.
That's not good.
Stick around at halftime here on OUA TV. We will have a special feature on Marauder athlete Giannis Spetsakis, a great feature that was done on a young athlete here at Mcmaster who's overcome a tremendous amount of adversity. And the concern right now is Penny Laurier, who's a starting defensive end, Bubba, but on special teams, and he is down and being tended to by the Marauder staff.
Again, he doesn't come with that incredible size that you might see out of some defensive linemen in this conference. But what he does do is mix good upper body strength with speed. And that's how he ends up, piling up the sacks and the tackles. We just did see the Mickleborough did indicate that there was a courtesy as the official to signify that the player did have a foot out. The flag was picked up.
Okay, everyone, welcome back to a football weekend in Canada's Rougezone. Now, we've had a number of hiccups here, technically. We have to address that. But now we're back. Now we're on the stream. Marshall Ferguson is joining me here as we've had the ability to watch all 4 of these games so far. And Marsh, let's reset this thing again for those that had problems tuning in. The number one thing that stands out to me about these 4 games is the Laurier-Mcmaster game and the mistakes early in that game that led to 2 defensive touchdowns by Laurier. Andreas Dueck, his problems that he had the previous week with Windsor continued again in the first 5 minutes of this game, and Mcmaster found themselves down 14-0.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, as soon as we turned on the stream, we looked down a couple of times and just saw Laurier Golden Hawks running to the end zone. And these are a couple of 1 and 2 teams, but I thought Mac was the better of the 1 and 2 teams based on the way they've played against Western specifically at the start of the year. They got beat up, but that was just physically getting overwrought. And then from what I've seen from Laurier and some of their struggles this year, I thought, Mac should be in pretty comfortable at home. Nope, that's not what it looks like. And it's, to your point, Jim, very similar to what we saw in the Mcmaster Windsor game last week, which is fumbles, interceptions, penalties at bad times. I mean, in overtime against Windsor on defense last week, Mac took an unsportsmanlike penalty and then an offsides penalty, moves it down the field. All of a sudden, 2 plays later, Windsor's in the end zone and the game is over. So they've been struggling with some of that discipline stuff this year, which is a little bit surprising. And it wasn't the discipline that got them in trouble today so far, at down 17-0, headed towards the end of the first half. It's just they've basically fumbled it away on a punt return, which gets returned for the touchdown to the house, and then the interception as well. So Laurier is in control right now, and the couple of the sideline shots I've seen of Michael Fultz, he's coaching pretty hard today, as you would understand.
Windsor looked competitive early on against Western. Then they gave up what looked to be a blocked punt for a touchdown. That was called back. They stabilized for a little while. The Western Mustangs grinding it out now against Windsor, taking control on their home field. In the Argo Cup, it looks like Toronto is lining up for a 23-yard field goal. They've been in control against York, and with SMU and Mount A, that's another field goal contest. Let's talk a little bit about St. Mary's and Mount Allison. Mount Allison, great defense. Timely special teams, no offense whatsoever.
No. Mount A is based in defense at their core. And we had Ray Perkin on Canadian Football Perspective write up a week 3 kind of recap. And I go back to that right now where he just says, based on the first 2 games the Mounties have played, the old cliche, the defense does in fact win championships, is going to have to come true. Mounties ranked first in nearly every defensive category, rushing yards per game allowed, points allowed, and more, while the offense is last in virtually every single offensive category in the AU, which is saying something in the AU West, because at times the offense has struggled out there, including points, yards, time of possession, first downs, and touchdowns. So there's a lot of, I think, concern there if you are the Mount Allison offense, but if the defense can hold you in, then there's no shame in that.
Montreal and Concordia, Bishops and Acadia ready to get going. At some point, we will check in on those games. We got 1:27 left in the first half of Laurier and Mcmaster. Let's check in on that game and the broadcast crew there.
Line, 17-yard pickup and a first down.
That's a gutty throw by Andreas Dueck, who hung right in there, know he was going to take a shot as they were just encroaching on that quarterback, and he upfielded the ball in that kind of side wind, right on target.
Mcmaster will go no huddle, and again, it's going to be caught. There's a flag down on the play, as Tuchinski will pull it in inside the 50-yard line. We'll check the flag. Laurier indicating against Mcmaster, and it is. Again, the wind a factor for sure now, as the sun has come out, but the wind has picked up.
It's kind of going to the side now. It's just a strange wind here. It's certainly not coming from tops to bottom of the field. It's kind of going to the corners.
So 1st and 15 for Mcmaster as they're marched off 5 yards. Dueck back to pass, and he is running out of time, and down he goes at the 41-yard line. It looked like big Luke Brubaker right there.
4 on 5, it appeared to me one more time. You got to win that battle for the offensive line. Dueck really no time to settle in, but again, 6 wide receivers on the field there, Steve. All of them blanket coverage. Some stuff underneath, but they're getting nothing downfield.
2nd and 23 for Mcmaster now after a loss of 8 on the play.
And I think they're doing the right thing here. Just you're letting the clock basically run out here. Mac call a timeout, and that's probably the wise thing here because we talked about these long down and distance situations. What do you got there? 2nd and 23. What do you got? 2-3 plays in your playbook to get you 23 yards? You might as well try and expire the clock here and just let's go back and reassess what's gone on in this half, what's gone wrong, what's gone right, and come up with a different sort of game plan because this just isn't working right now.
Especially with Laurier, Bubba, as you said, their downfield coverage has been outstanding, so a low percentage 2nd and 23 play becomes even lower.
No separation. And that's a credit to the Laurier Golden Hawks, who I believe lead the OUA in interceptions.
.7 seconds left in the first half. And now they'll finally blow the play in. Andreas Duecki will settle back and pass and roll out to the left, wants to throw it, and then throws it incomplete. Arsenault was the closest receiver, so the kicking team will come on.
And again, troubles there. They only had 3 down linemen, the Laurier Golden Hawks, send 1 wide receiver, or at least another man on a delay, and it looked like the MAC offensive line were kind of struggling there with their pass protection. Dueck just does not look comfortable, or at least he hasn't been given an opportunity to be comfortable.
Agavoyan back deep again. Beautiful high punt that now does hang up in the wind as it will go right out of bounds. At the 33-yard line, and I would expect Laurier to play it fairly cautious here.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to give Mcmaster any opportunities of getting as we've seen earlier in the first quarter, some type of pick six situation. I'd be very surprised if they put the ball in the air here.
Laurier's offense, save for one drive, hasn't done much here this afternoon. It's been special.
And welcome back, Marsh. A lot of these games winding into halftime now. Western in a commanding lead on Windsor. That's probably a game that we're going to leave because it's crossing over into blowout mode. Do you think that's a safe call?
It seems like it at this point. I would say, Jim, that I was talking off the top here about them being able to hang in and be in control, but it looks like Western's going to do Western stuff for the remainder of the afternoon. So I'm sorry if you're a Lancers fan and you got your hopes up and you thought today might be the day we took down Mac, maybe we take down Western the very next week. I will feel very okay with eating my words if I end up getting that one wrong, because it does look like they are in control. But still some frustration from Mcmaster here as Adam Priokanen goes to the sideline.
We had the Crown Gridiron Nation over-under of 48, I believe, on the Windsor Western game. Do you think they go over the over-under on this?
I think that they do, and the reason I say that is that even when Western is in this type of mode and they're being dominant and they're getting into the, I mean, you're going to end up with both running backs having themselves 3 touchdowns each, likely, right, which puts you up around that 42-point mark, and then I think Windsor's good for a touchdown or 2, touchdown and a field goal, something like that. So it'll be close. I think that's a pretty smart line that you guys set, to be completely honest, but it does look like that's going to be a very lopsided one for the remainder of the day. But again, it's for Windsor, they didn't expect to be in this situation at this point in the year. So you're playing with house money, and anything that you get out of this game, whether it be learning experience or good film to be able to grow from, when the OUA set up the East and the West in these condensed divisions this year, there was no anticipation that you were going to end up getting Windsor being in the discussion in the West. So as much as today might hurt for them, and there'll be a lot to take away from it, I just view it as being something where you can pick yourself up. If you can dust yourself off after this game is done, then you can look back on today and say, well, we didn't even think we were going to be at this point.
I want to talk about that OUA East and West setup. It's something that they've had in their distant past when they were divided into two divisions. I really like this. I really like the idea of the regional competitiveness. I like the idea that when you're on the bottom, you're not necessarily looking 9 teams up or 10 teams up at the top. And the one thing that I really like about it is I see a path here where the teams in Quebec could be part of this, where you could have 16 teams playing in 4 divisions or playing in 2 divisions, maybe with that one crossover game that isn't going to be a crossover game that breaks the bank travel-wise. I think there's something there that if the leadership of those conferences want to look at it, is something that they could build off of to really build or reset the discussion around university football in Central Canada.
Yeah, and the thing that I like about it is, as somebody who played university football at a school that was in the quote-unquote OUA West, it always felt like it was regional anyways. Like, as much as it was Carlton came in when I was just finishing up my career, it was always Ottawa and Queens was out there. And then, of course, like York was involved in that. But we always looked at it as, okay, it's Western, it's Mac, it's Laurier, it's Guelph. Like, that was the kind of power 4 for me. And yes, it might get to a point where it's unrealistic or unfair maybe that one of the conferences is so lopsided. But at some point, the East is going to level out if they do indeed keep this format. And if you're talking about the OUA West itself, in terms of traveling to see, and this is kind of interesting because it's the dynamic of family and of that level of football, you want to be able to see your son play as many games as possible, right? Or you want your friends to be able to come and see you. And it's a lot easier if you are from Hamilton and your kid is playing at Mcmaster to go and see them play Laurier, Guelph, London, than it is to go to Ottawa or to Carlton or to Queens and I think that actually might help get more people in the stands as well, because you can go to Laurier at Mac at Laurier if you end up getting back-to-backs, double headers, that kind of thing. And we've seen that in the CFL have success, whether it's Labor Day rematch or other back-to-back games. So I think there is something there. I don't know all the pros, all the cons at this point. It's still very much a feeling out process, but I agree with you. It's something that I think that they should look at going forward as being a staple.
I was ready to write off Concordia, to tell you the truth. And here they are against Montreal. Montreal comes out on their first drive, finds the end zone, but Olivier Watt, this guy cannot be denied. He's penned in as my Heck Creighton winner, not just a nominee from Quebec, winner so far for what he's been able to do as a quarterback at Concordia, Marsh.
Yeah, I wonder how much confidence there's going to be today, as the conditions look like they might be a little up and down out there in Montreal, but how much confidence there's going to be considering how this matchup went at the start of the season, because I do think that's going to end up playing into how this one feels out. But Concordia has shown the ability this year at various points to go punch for punch with pretty much anybody. And that I find interesting, because that hasn't been a characteristic of them in the past. And if they're going to be able to fight against the monsters in Montreal and Laval, they're going to need to have that dynamic on their team first and foremost.
They did right there on that stop on the inside run. Let's dive into that Concordia game and pick up the broadcasters from the Concordia feed. Montreal and Carabin and the Concordia Stingers tied at 7 after one possession each.
2 and out.
I was a bit confused there on the run myself, because, to be honest, it looked like Sénécal wanted to get the ball back and was trying to find someone on the right side, but the running back for Montreal, which I believe was Bertrand Beaulieu, just decided to keep the ball to himself and thought he might have found a seam, but it didn't really work.
He probably didn't have the look that he was looking for. With that, therefore, he probably just took it down to his main assignments.
Now, the important question here, Casito, it is windy outside and there is rain. Do you think Carabin will just maybe concede the point instead of actually kicking off to Concordia?
That's an interesting fact. I mean, from the years I played with them, they have a lot of, pride and attitude. So I would not be surprised if they try to kick it like they did 3 years ago. However, given the tight situation they might be in, we can see that he's most likely should take a knee.
I believe it's Alain Perven on the kick, low kick, waiting for it, and they will take the point. I was a bit confused there. I thought he was about to start to run, but then
he tried that. He think he's slick. He tried that.
I believe he thought he saw something on the left side, but immediately tracked back and decided to give the 2 points. So it will be Concordia will now take the lead 9-7.
Hey,
And
sometimes you must not try to be a hero. Just do your job.
Concordia now will get the ball back at their 35-yard line. So, Jalen Greaves with about a 72-yard catch, if I'm not mistaken, on the last drive. And then a touchdown from Jacob Salvay 2 plays later. And now Concordia get the lead because of the safety. And let's see what they decide to do here.
And that'll be a good time to bounce back. Take the lead.
Now, Olivier Roy waiting for the snap. Dwante Morgan behind him. 2 receivers to his left, 3 to the right. Olivier Roy goes to the left, tries to find another deep ball. Does he have Jalen Greaves again? No, he does not. It is incomplete.
All right, good job from the defensive back. Play the pocket when you're in trail technique.
We'll look at the replay here, Casito.
Good zone coverage. That turned down into a man, and now he played the technique by playing the basket when he's a trail technique. Jalen Greaves could have been a little bit of a drop to attack the highest point so that he can be the only one to be able to catch this ball.
Johan Dubin, I believe, was on the break up there for Les Carabins. So now it's 2nd down and 10. Olivier Roy waiting for the snap. Dante Morgan behind him. Roy, high snap. We'll try to find someone. And it is intercepted by Les Carabins. Went overthrew Jacob Salvay and went straight to the hands of Les Carabins. I believe it is 31, so it's Bruno Lagacé with the interception. And now Montreal will start in Concordia territory. Casito, talk to me about what happened on the replay.
The play execution wasn't that bad. It was only a matter of the ball placement and the accuracy. But like as we said, since it's raining, I don't know how the ball is coming to the Olivier Roy's hand, so it might be a little bit slippery. Only God knows what happened.
I mean, it was a high snap, it was a high throw, and it was immediately turned over. So now Montreal gets good field position now in Concordia territory. Jonathan Senecal waiting for the snap. 3 wide receivers on his right. We'll hand the ball off instead, and they can be able to find a room. Can they cut a couple blocks? And they do, and will be stopped at about the 30-yard line.
Good job by the rookie running back.
I believe it was number 41, but I don't have.
Was it 41 or 49?
It might have been 48. It might have been Bertrand Beaulieu, actually. So, yes, it was Bertrand Beaulieu. Bertrand Beaulieu with a good run there, about 20 yards on the run. And it'll be 1st down, Carabin. Jonathan Senecal waiting for a snap. Bertrand Beaulieu behind him. Two receivers to his left, 1 to his right. Emilia tries to fake it to the right, now goes to the left, and will just throw it away. And it'll be 2nd down.
Good decision by the quarterback. No negative play on this one. If you don't see what you like, just throw it away, especially if you might be injured.
Malik Desir there on the break, on the pressure on Jonathan Senecal, and it will be now 2nd down.
If it wasn't for him, the quarterback would have been comfortable in the pocket.
So 2nd down, 10 yards. Probably expect a pass here.
Okay, Montreal and Concordia. Montreal on the move. I think they have that score bug wrong on Montreal Concordia. There they go. Just as I mentioned it, they flipped it back around. Somebody was listening to me in La Belle Provence. As Montreal actually took a safety as we cut to that game. Acadia now with possession after they held tight in the red zone against Bishops, and Bishops couldn't finish off their drive. A frustrating season so far at Acadia for Jeff Cummins and crew with that one game that they had to hand back to St. Mary's due to an ineligible player.
Yeah, and I talked to Jeff Cummins way back at I want to say in the spring of this past year, and he said that he had a lot of guys coming back, a lot of veterans, and he was excited about the group, but he's kind of got this team that is extremely veteran-laden, and then there's a lot of the young players that are going to be the next generation of Axemen that are out there, and yeah, they've struggled a little bit throughout the year. I got to say as well here, our guy Olivier Boy that we were talking about, the quarterback for Concordia, not afraid to throw vertical, which I love. Like, he took that shot on 1st down for them, missed it, and then ended up throwing the interception there to Montreal a second ago. But I like the fact that Concordia is attacking, because it'd be pretty easy to back into this matchup against Montreal and try and play things safe and close to the chest, and they look like they're going for the win throughout the day. So for better or worse, I think that's going to be a bit of a fireworks show between Montreal and Concordia.
Just for people who don't know, Concordia's 3 wins were epic, Marshall. They were all 3-point wins. They were either in overtime or on the final play of the game, and they were against, in the case against Montreal, a formidable opponent at Sepsum, over on the other side of the mountain. And they did that in front of 3,500 people there at Sepsum. That was an impressive victory. In that win against Montreal, Olivier Waugh with 5 touchdown passes and no interceptions.
Yeah. And that's really tough to do in Montreal, because I talked earlier about going into London and playing against the Western Mustangs. It just feels bigger. Sepsum's the same. Like, it's got that environment that, even though it's not the world's biggest field and the world's biggest grandstands, it has a bit of a different, intimidating feel to it. But I have to say that my good buddy Eric Noivo from Football Operations in the Canadian Football League walked in very proudly the day after Concordia ended up getting that victory, and rightfully so, because it's been a little while for Concordia to have a marquee victory, but that was it. And they're trying to double down on it against the same opponent today. But Montreal's ground game looks really strong. So it looks like it's going to be a little bit of the gashing runs of Montreal against whether or not Olivier Waugh is able to hit on some of these throws down the field.
I'm Jim Mullen. He's Marshall Ferguson. We are bringing you the Rougezone here on Football Weekend in Canada. And Marshall, this exercise here, I was a little terrified, to tell you the truth, coming into this, because you never know what's going to come up. We did have some technical difficulties in the first hour that we've dispensed of now, which is a positive. This is something so far that I'd like to do just about every week.
Well, it's funny you say that, because it was tough to get off the ground. But as somebody who has very limited technical knowledge in the background scenes, I feel for everyone that has been working to get us onto the air for the last hour plus, because my dad worked in tech and ops and all these things in television, and it is just an unholy amount of stress when things are not getting off the ground the way that you want. So I feel for them. I'll say that. Second thing I want to say is, yeah, I hope people are enjoying this as much as I am, just watching these games and just hanging out and watching all of them on the same screen at the same time, because I watch a lot of the OUA games because there's coaches and players that I know and understand, but to have this going across the country and being able to have this all together in the same place, this is fantastic. I'm nerding out as I'm actually on the screen, which is probably not ideal for a broadcaster.
Well, and one of the bonuses with this is that we can drop into games and hear commentary. It looks like they're going into a field position battle in one of our AUS games as well. What I'd like to do right now is go back to that Montreal-Concordia game, as it looks like Concordia is getting ready to punt. No, actually Olivier was in there on second down, and like you said, he likes to go vertical, and that was almost another pick, Marshall.
Yeah, like I said, he's not shy. He's not shy, which for better or worse, I think that's the equation. Anytime you're playing against one of these national powers, that can go real well or real poorly for you as you go throughout the day. But I do like the idea, though, that they're spreading it out with Concordia as well, because Montreal down the middle is pretty strong from what I've seen so far this year. And I think it's the right approach for them to try and get as many bodies out onto the edge and try and get as many balls out on the perimeter as possible and try and work downfield that way, because I just don't think you're going to be able to beat Montreal in the trenches right between the tackles, play after play after play.
This is going to be an interesting Montreal drive coming up here, so let's pick up the broadcast crew from Concordia.
Carabin will start with just over 5 minutes left to go in this first quarter. The Carabin lead 10-9 over the Concordia Stingers.
It might have went under the radar, but that was extremely good execution by the special team on this one. It was a good kick, and he got stopped right where he caught it without any flags.
So, Carabin start at the 30-yard line. 30-yard line will be where they start. Jonathan Senecal waiting for the snap. About 3 running backs triangling behind him. Goes for the snap, now rolls to his right, going to try and pick it to his left, and does. They're able to find a room. Bertrand Beaulieu gets a couple more yards, and that will be a first down, about a 13-yard gain there.
I think that was one of the new plays we didn't see yet this season, so I see that they made a lot of adjustments during this week.
Bertrand Beaulieu, so far, good running plays, and gets a couple of good options for Les Carabins. And now they are going to work at their 41-yard line. Jonathan Senecal waiting for the snap. Bertrand Beaulieu behind him. 3 receivers to his left, 1 to his right. Jonathan Senecal gets the snap. We'll give it to Bertrand Beaulieu. He'll try to find a seam. Maybe gets about 2 or 3 yards at best, but that will be a second down.
Solid, strong 7 execution. I see that they all execute their assignment. That way we don't see any crazy hole opening out of nowhere.
As there is now less than 4 minutes left in this first quarter. Still a very big downpour coming down at Concordia Stadium. The rain will probably persist like this the rest of the game. As Jonathan Sénécal tried to signal for a snap, but decides to maybe look at an audible. Has three receivers to his right, 2 to his left. Bertrand Beaulieu waiting to his left as well. Jonathan Sénécal trying to find a pass. Gets covered and will just throw it away and will be third down.
Good job by the defensive backs from Concordia on this one, allowing any receivers to be open.
Joël Terrien there with the pressure, and now will be a 2 and out, and will be punted away by Montreal with just less than 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in this first quarter.
Hey, that's a good way to bounce back, especially from coming from a 2 and out themselves.
Concordia now will be able to have the chance to have the ball back, and we'll see how many yards Alain Perven will be able to kick away this ball. Should probably expect about a line drive kick like Andrew Stevens. I feel like that will probably be the game plan for the punters.
Indeed, indeed.
Try not to keep the ball in the wind. As you can see, even if I don't know if you can see this on the left corner of your screen, ladies and gentlemen, but even the officials are trying to wash the ball and trying to keep them dry. So that way, for the snap, it's going to be fair for both teams, and that way, and probably the ball won't slip as much.
Ideally, we would like to have mini balls so that we can rotate them, but given the situation, we do what we have.
You got to love sometimes when officials try to help both teams, and in this case they do, and now we will wait the snap for the punt. Alain Perven waits for the snap. We'll get it, and kicks it away to the left side. Very high kick. Martin Blais waiting for it, and will drop it to his knees and get immediately hit. And the bobble did not help Martin Blais' case there. And it will be a first down at about the 25-yard line. Let's look back at the punt Quesito.
Concordia got a little bit lucky on this one, knowing that there was a block in the back for a certain personnel. For instance, as we can see over here, but at least we didn't get a flag out of it.
Just a steamroll tackle there. Michael Broderick was there on the tackle on Martin Blais from the Carabins. So it'll be first down Concordia at the 27-yard line. Olivier Roy waiting for a snap. Dante Morgan behind him. 2 receivers to his right, 3 to his left. Olivier Roy gets a snap. Play action. Will roll to his right. We'll see if he can find Vincent Alessandrini. Just gets a tip on it, but it will come out of bounds, and it will be second down.
That was a good adjustment made by both Olivier Roy and Alessandrini. It's only a matter of chemistry because they were like a few inches away of making it complicated, completing it.
So, second down for Concordia, second down to 10. Just under 3 minutes left to play in this first quarter. Olivier Roy waiting for the snap. Dante Morgan behind him. 3 receivers to his left. 2 to his right. Snap is good. Olivier Roy immediately looks to his left, deflected, caught, and immediately hit as it's caught. It will be a third down. William Tremblay with the catch, but about 5 yards, if that.
It was an athletic catch, but you got to keep in mind that when your number 15 is covering you, you got to be ready for the big hit. He's proven himself to be one of the most physical player in the conference right now.
And I believe it was deflected as well, so that didn't help William Tremblay's case. But he did manage to get the catch, get a couple more yards, but it will be a 3 and out, and it will be punted away by Concordia.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're keeping an eye on all 4 of these games. Interesting developments between Calgary and Manitoba, which are just underway in the first quarter there. One of the things about the proof of concept on this very first day of doing the Rougezone is we're not doing highlight recaptures, but I know when we eventually go to that Calgary-Manitoba game at halftime when they do their highlight packs, you're going to want to see Tyson Philpott's touchdown reception that put Calgary on the board with the first major score of the afternoon. You had an eyeball on this, March. Tell me about this.
Essentially corner underneath. It looked like a half over the top and a free safety running into the party, or it might have been the free safety over the top and a linebacker running into the party. Regardless, there were 3 people there, and it was just a long time in the pocket, not much of a rush. Calgary loads it up, throws it high into the sky at IG Field out there in Winnipeg, and down from the heavens comes Tyson Philpott with the catch, and there's Jalen, his brother, right there to celebrate with him as he's dancing in the end zone right away. So they're on another planet when they make plays like that. It's so obvious how good they are and how special they can be at the next level. Whatever level that ends up being, we'll see. But it's pretty amazing to see this grab. And yeah, you're going to want to see that. And also check it out on Twitter because the Calgary Dinos do a great job of posting some of their stuff there as well. But it's a pretty special play, and I got a feeling that it's not the last one he's going to make today.
Yeah, it looked like York found the end zone. They slowed up there. Was there a flag on that play? Let's go to the broadcast crew with York and U of T in the Argo Cup.
Especially Tolu Ahmed has had a great game, but kind of got burned on that play. Just got caught with his head down. Not seeing the ball when it went right over his head.
Yeah, got caught with his head down, but lucky that he was being interfered with, because that one, instead of going into the end zone, is coming back 10 yards for the Lions and this offense. On second down here, it was 2nd and 5, opting for the big play, but instead now 2nd and forever. 2nd and 21 here, Craney in the gun. Takes the snap, bit of pressure, escaping in his face, and he fumbles it, and it's going to be picked up by number 98 of the Blues, Jackson Meyer, and he is down inside the 20. Another turnover for the Lions in this game, and the Blues will be set up in great...
Marsh, there's a saying that I have sometimes when I look at the plight of the York Lions, and it's called Yorking it up, and they just Yorked it up right there, unfortunately. There's a potential for a 14-point swing in a couple of plays. That is crushing for Warren Craney's crew.
Yeah, and it's the things like that add up over the length of a season for York that too many times, unfortunately, under Warren Craney had led them to where they have been at. But man, yeah, doubling down, losing the football, having it roll away, picked up by U of T. They're all the way down inside the 20-yard line, and that's a tough spot to be in for the Lions.
Let's pick up the crew here as Toronto looks to find the end zone.
And he'll get it. And he won't gain much, just out across the 20-yard line. Short gain for Jima. One of his first carries of the game. It's been Williams getting most of the work early on, but second and about 6 or 7 here for the Lions, for the Blues upcoming.
Yeah, really unfortunate for the Lions, who, right when you think they have their offense going again, right when they get their first touchdown of the game called back, you give up great field position to the Blues.
Yeah, so they're saying just a short gain, about 2 yards there for the running back there on that play. So now second was Jima who had the carry. Sequeira now in the shotgun. It's Jima still in the backfield there. And Sequeira picks up the low snap, looks to his left, and he throws to the corner of the end zone, intended for Lovegrove, but Lovegrove was nowhere near that. Perhaps maybe a little bit of interference. It didn't. No flags have been thrown, but yeah, that was safety number 32 on the coverage there. Mac Bannatyne for the Lions side, and now we'll likely see another McLean field goal.
Yeah, there was nobody even in the area code on that one.
Well, Mark, it's really about finishing drives, and there's been a couple of opportunities for the U of T to finish off drives and put York in their rearview mirror, and they just haven't done it so far this afternoon.
Yeah, it's interesting. It kind of reminds me the vibe of this game, obviously different levels and all the rest, but of watching Winnipeg playing against Edmonton in Winnipeg last Friday night in the CFL, where you're kind of going, well, I think I know who the better team is, and I know what they have to do in order to put them away, and they're just unable to at various points. But Clay Sequeira's had a little bit of a slower start statistically than I've thought throughout the year that he would have, and so we'll see whether or not Toronto can kind of find that killer instinct at any point in this ball game, because York's one of the few teams that U of T should be able to ring up, I would say, 25, 30 points on if they can put together some drives.
Looked like Montreal tried to set up a pass off of a lateral hitch screen there in the red zone against Concordia, a little trickery of their own, but the Concordia defense flowing to the ball well to shut that down. Let's go back over to Montreal Concordia late in the first quarter, as the Carabin look to find the end zone while they're in the red zone.
And it is. So it will be a 1st and goal for Montreal off a late hit penalty on Concordia. And you said it in the broadcast versus Sherbrooke, silly penalties like that are not what Concordia needs.
That might be the key factors in this game.
So it will be first down, Montreal. Probably the last play of this first quarter once the clock starts to wind again. And Montreal will have at least 2 tries to get in, maybe 3 if they decide they don't want to take the field goal. Jonathan Sénécal will wait for the snap. Bertrand Beaulieu on his left. A timeout has been called by Montreal, and we'll see what they want to decide to do here. Montreal not necessarily happy about how their alignment was. So we'll still be waiting for that last play of the quarter, as there was a timeout before the quarter ended.
The defensive back needs to be a little bit more aware, because now that he established a running game, yeah, anything can happen, because they either can go back to pass.
So, first down and goal for Montreal. What will they decide to do? To me, you got to expect a run here from Bertrand Beaulieu, Casito.
Definitely.
Now, the question will be, will you decide to go straight down Main Street or go to the left or right side? Is going to be the real big question. But I think we're both in agreement here that Bertrand Beaulieu is going to get the ball here, and it's going to be just trying to pound his way in.
Most likely, but if they do go for a pass, I would not be surprised they would have went on a strong side.
It will be first down. However, it is Dimitri Morin now behind, so maybe they'll try and go for some type of quarterback sneak. And nope, they'll give it to Bertrand Beaulieu. He will charge in. And do they give it? Is the question. Waiting on the call of the officials. Still no signal. And let's look at a replay here, Casito, as we await. And I do not think they gave it, so let's look at the replay here.
I mean, they have a lot of options, which I think they were trying to show the defense on this one. They could have went either Dimitri or they could have went with the running back.
So,
well, that'll do it for the first quarter between Montreal and Concordia, with the Carabins knocking on the door. Second down from the 1-yard line. Good vertical play in the Acadia game that we have our eye on. And checking out the ticker, Laurier has extended their lead over Mcmaster 19-0. And let's go to this Acadia game right now as they try to hammer it in from 1 yard out. And it looks like they just did, Marshall Ferguson.
Yeah, they look like they are in control right now in this one. And nice to see the offense coming alive a little bit for the Axemen.
Oh, nice to see that college enthusiasm there as well. Let's bring the audio up on this one just as they recap this TD plunge by the quarterback.
Patterson does.
Yeah, the quarterback keeper from Patterson after that beautiful long pass connection to his receiver, Gledhill. So it took a few seconds longer, but they do indeed get the score. And now the extra point is tagged on. So touchdown, convert, and Acadia.
Okay, let's quickly shift back over to Montreal and Concordia. It's second down on the 1 yard line between Montreal and Con U, with the Carabins knocking on the door here. Let's see if that defensive front can stand up for the upstart Stingers.
I'm a bit questioning the decision of why Dimitri Morin is now there on the first and goal, but you might have a reasoning behind it. Go ahead.
As we can see, the number 12 might have been injured. So we have the most wise decision would be to bring your second quarterback, especially, if he's mobile. They give you a lot of more options, especially if he's being on the field and you have a running back behind him.
Second and goal. They try to go for the jump. And do they get it? They do. It is a touchdown for Montreal. Concordia trying to speak that it wasn't in, but immediately signaled by the referees that it was this touchdown. And Montreal will now increase their lead. I believe it was Justin Langlais on the run there.
Hey, thank God he tall.
I'm hearing Bertrand Beaulieu, but it didn't look like it was a 48 number there. But
as it is 16, something might break there, and it's a tight game. It's not necessarily, it's not their deluxe game, that's for sure.
An 8-point game, so still a one-score game, all things considered. But you need a 2-point conversion instead of just a touchdown, the extra point. We wait for the snap. Kick is up, and it is good. And is now a 17-9 game for Les Carabins de l'Université Montréal. Go ahead, Tizito. I accidentally interrupted you there.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, it's a situation that Concordia is pretty familiar with it, especially having to make a 2-point conversion. We saw them executing it multiple times against McGill.
And with that, we will await the kickoff from Montreal to Concordia. The rain still pouring down, and I think you've seen the weather be a factor more on Concordia's side in Montreal. Concordia, Olivier Roy missing a couple snaps and overthrowing a couple balls. Maybe that's the grip on the ball that's affecting him right now.
Definitely. I mean, I presume they made either some adjustment or practice on the sideline, as I saw the center cover practicing a couple snaps.
We will see if those practices work or not. So we'll be kicked off to Concordia. I believe Olivier Morancy and Gabriel Duquette are the two waiting for the return this time. Michael Arpin waiting for the signal. Gives it and will kick it. Oh, never mind. I believe the ball probably fell on the ground before he was about to kick it, is what I think happened. So they will just re-kick it, and we'll do it all
welcome
over
back
again.
to the studio, everyone. I'm getting sucked into this SMU MTA game as much as it's a defensive boulder fight. It really is a bit of a war of attrition here, Marshall, looking at that one. And it's frustrating checking in on Toronto-York in terms of the lack of finish in that game. The compelling one right now is Montreal and Concordia, because I want to see how Concordia responds, because they've been all about responses. And speaking of response, there is a great big convoy for Mount A to take it into the red zone against SMU. Probably it's a touchdown indeed. It's a touchdown. Let's go to the crew there right now momentarily, and then we'll bring Gord Randall in with you as we do the transition. Let's go to the audio and SMU MTA.
O'Neill picked him off the deflection from Mayo and went about 45 yards. And who got into the end zone, did they say? Perfect. So it was Reese Martin with the touchdown after the fumble. And a huge play there for the Mounties defense makes this game 13-7, pending the extra point here from Parker. First touchdown of the game, and it was a wild one. And now Parker splits the uprights to make this a one-touchdown lead for Mount Allison with 2:51 remaining.
Okay, we're back in studio. We just caught the tail end of that MTA touchdown. We needed to catch that MTA touchdown, Marsh, because I think they've actually only had 3 this year.
Yeah, but it's great to see, right? Like, anytime that they get offense, though, in those AOS matchups, that's going to be a big bonus for you. So, yeah, there's as I said off the top, no shame in that. But I'm with you, Jim. I've been kind of focusing on this Toronto-York game, and it is frustrating, right? Like, I'm starting to understand why Queens looks like they're the best team in the entire OUA, because they're playing in the East, and when you're able to finish drives and teams like this can't right now, man, that's a frustrating one for me, because these two teams do have potential, especially Toronto, the explosive offense that we saw with them in the passing game in the previous years, back in 2019 especially. I'd like to see them get back to a little bit more of that.
Yeah, and there's some yardage on the ground there for Toronto, but you mentioned Queens. That's the perfect segue for bringing Gord Randall in.
Of course.
You see, you just set it up. You just teed it up. Gord Randall, thanks for joining us. You're going to be taking the baton here from Marsh at the top of the hour. I know that you were a little frustrated in our first hour as we staggered our way onto the air, but what have you seen so far, and what do you like?
Well, I mean, I love the jumping around from camera to camera. I also love that you guys are going sound ups to the local broadcast so we can get some of those other voices out there, especially when you get over to the French Canadian broadcast, because let's face it, we're not the best at pronouncing those names.
Yeah.
So, but some good competitive games going on. The Red-Blue game, I know York just kind of bungled it a little bit, but that's a competitive game right now. That Montreal-Concordia game, great to see Concordia is right in it, keeping that one tight. So, lots of good stuff going on. But, I mean, there's a ton of potential here, and I'm glad that we got the tech issues figured out.
Yeah, let's look ahead, both you guys, to Carlton and Queens, which is not on your screen right now, which starts at high noon. That's a critical game for Carlton, and if there's, I won't even call it a trap game because Queens is going to be prepared for Carlton, but try to, and I'll start with Marsh here first, try to give me 3 keys to this game off the top of your head.
Yeah, I think the thing that jumped out to me was just the confidence level in the backfield for Carlton after they lost Tanner de Jong at quarterback, right, with the ankle injury. Like that really shook how they were throwing, because one of the first throws of the year against Queens, Carlton just basically Tanner de Jong standing in the pocket by himself, flat-footed, doesn't even open his hips to the right and throws the ball 45, 50 yards down the field. And the rest of the game, Queens defense kind of went, oh, okay, yeah, he can make some throws. We should probably take that into account. And they backed off a little, and that opened up some things underneath. And he had a great day yardage-wise, even though they lost that game, Carlton did. So regaining that confidence, I think, is really important for what Carlton wants to do. Obviously, stopping the run, like everything that Steve Snyder does through Queens is going to be run-based. I mean, I will say this, though. I've been really impressed by, I believe James Keenan is the quarterback there, Gord, that's at Queens, and his ability to make throws the last couple of games. And it's not always, and he makes some that are kind of questionable, but that dude, like the old accuracy thing I always love is, decent quarterbacks will hit a doorknob from 10 yards away. Good ones will be able to hit the point on the doorknob. The great ones will hit the keyhole. And there's a couple of throws a game where James Keenan hits the keyhole. Like he's trying to open the door with every throw and just bang, right off exactly where he wants. So him making some throws, I think, is important, but stopping the run for Carlton is big. And then for Queens, it's keep rolling, man. Keep doing what you're doing, because it's very obviously working for you at this point. And they look, I'm not going to say the strongest in the OUA, but based on their strength of schedule and all the rest, they look very comfortable right now. So ride the wave, ride the momentum.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you talked about how Queens is a run-based offense. I think Rashid Tucker ran for a good but not great 79 yards in the first game, with Keenan chipping in with another 30 or so himself. I think if you're Queens, you're looking to try and get Tucker up over 100 on the ground. For the Carlton side, and just to echo, by the way, your comments on James Keenan, like you talked about one throw in particular on our show last week where he's rolling to his left and just like spins on his heels and tosses a dime just inside the sidelines. And so you see those flashes of brilliance from Keenan. And I think that what he's gotten a lot better at this year is taking what's in front of him and limiting those kind of catastrophic turnover plays that in a 3-down game, they lose you possessions, right? So, I think that's Steve Snyder's tutelage coming through there, because while he does have a run-based offense, let's not forget Steve Snyder's a quarterback at heart. So he knows what he wants to do under center there, and Keenan's doing a really good job for them of it. On the Carlton side, we talked about on our program last week how stingy Queens' defense has been this year. They have to finish drives. You talked about how they did rack up some decent offensive yards in that first game, but they also produced only 6 points. They got to find a way to get into the end zone, and they're going to have to find a way, like what Queens has shown so far. Like, you're going to have to try and hold them under 17 points if you're going to have a shot in this one, I think. So it'll be interesting to see, because we don't necessarily think of the OUA as a defensive conference, and yet we have seen a fair amount of high-level defense and low-scoring games in that conference this year.
Let's pump up the audio in the Bishops game. They have just found the promised land, and we will say goodbye to Marshall Ferguson. He goes back to his day job at the CFL. Marsh, thanks very much for being part of this today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, Jim, for having me on, and I hope that everybody appreciates the effort that yourself and Gord and everybody behind the scenes has put into not just this broadcast, but Football Weekend in Canada. I hope everybody celebrates it, enjoys it, and enjoy the CFL doubleheader as the dessert to this fantastic university platform that we have going here today. So I hope that we get to do this again very, very soon.
Well, let's pump up the audio now from the right after the Bishops touchdown.
Took advantage, but Greatwire is a very accomplished running back. We saw that the last time that I think it was 19 months ago that we played, and we saw it so far this season. He can, with a little bit of blocking up front, which he got that time, he can make the yards.
Well, Bishops knows what they've got with Louis-Philippe Gregoire. He's 4th in the nation coming into this game with 316 total rushing yards, a 6.3 per carry average. And you know, John, that's his first touchdown of the year.
Wow, that is a surprise because however, as I said, they use him to get all the way down usually and then go to a passing game. Here it was the other way around. He gets to go in rather than to a pass. We can expect Acadia now will show us that same thing because they have Cole Estabrook, so they can do the pass run. And that's what it's come down to, picking the right time for the right pass play.
So the single point that Bishop scored earlier is the difference right now, 8-7 with 9:34 to play in the second quarter. These two teams tied with equal records of 1 and 2. Big game here. One of these teams will solidify their playoff position just a little bit more with a win here today at Acadia, and not much going on the return. So 5 of 8 for 60 yards is the quarterback, Patterson. I asked you earlier about what you thought of McGriskin. What have you liked so far from Patterson under center for Acadia?
Patterson is doing a good job. Remember, this season, the first time he got any reps, let alone be the starter. He was with the team previous COVID, but didn't get any snaps. So he's showing me a lot of consistency right now. He gets the blocking up front. He can get the job done.
And he's really liked trying to find Matthew Gledhill in terms of the passing game, so we'll see if they try to have a connection here on this drive. They'll start it off with Estabrooks on the ground, perhaps no surprise on first down, and not much going on there for Estabrooks. Picks up a couple. 6 carries, 25 yards before that carry for Estabrooks, and he might have added maybe a yard or two there.
Digan Gomez, again, getting up, making the tackle right there as he rolled off his block, kept going for the legs, tripped him up.
Well, I shortchanged. They've got second, so they didn't give him any yards. So
AUS.
2nd and 10, no yards
that
on that run.
Argo Cup is just lingering around like a bad smell in the crawl space, but it's in shooting distance. And Montreal and Concordia is competitive. We're keeping that game. Which one do you throw off of the island?
Well, I mean, I don't want to disrespect the Toronto schools, but potentially that one, just because neither of those teams look like they're going to be a major factor in the OUA race. I don't like to just eschew the AUS altogether, because at the very least the AUS is always going to be competitive amongst themselves, and then we see how things go into the national semifinals. I mean, the other game you might want to throw out is the Mount Allison St. Mary's, just because unfortunately St. Mary's is looking like they're really struggling this season. But yeah, the Toronto game with York having put up 2 points into the second half now is not exactly a customer-friendly affair.
No, it's not a customer-friendly affair. And the great thing is that even though we're following 4 games on here, if we gas the game that you like, you can go online somewhere else and watch this. You can watch this. If we sacrifice an AUS TV game, you can go watch it over there. If we sacrifice the York-Toronto game and you want to see it to its conclusion, you can go over to OUA TV. And now we've got 2 games where we've got to make a decision which one we want to bring online, which is Carlton and Queens versus Calgary and Manitoba. What would you bring on first? Which one are you willing to wait for? And I know that you're a Queens grad, so you're slightly biased in this decision-making.
Funny thing is, actually, I was going to go in the opposite direction on this, because anybody who follows me on Twitter may have seen this tweet this week, but my current top 10 would have the University of Manitoba at the top. I want to see if they're for real in the Canada West, so that would actually be my first choice at this point in time.
Okay, so are we agreeing then on saying goodbye to York to Toronto or the SMU MTA game?
Let's say
flip a coin.
Which one of those is further into the game?
Let me see here. There's 2:04 left in the third in York Toronto, and SMU MTA's in the fourth, and it's a 1-score game. I'm saying I'm saying we sacrifice York Toronto at this stage. There are more points just put up the board, 16-2. See you later, York Toronto. If you want to see that, It's over on OUA TV if you want to see that through to its conclusion. We're going to work hard on getting Calgary, Manitoba up, so you don't have to stare at our faces all that long. Gord, by the way, where are you right now? Are you in a cabin making maple syrup, or what are you doing? Are you?
I am indeed. Yeah, I just changed out of my plaid. Where I'm at a very wet Shawnigan Lake, British Columbia right now. We are shutting down our property here for the winter this weekend. So we currently are confined inside, not just because I had this obligation, but because Vancouver area and Vancouver Island, where I am, are getting well over 100 millimeters of rain in the current 36-hour span that we're sitting in. So it's very wet outside.
I sampled that on Bowen Island yesterday before I came over to the mainland. Yeah. It was rather treacherous out on the highway. And you know where it's also treacherous? There's a lot of rain coming down in Montreal right now, and that's probably affecting the passing game of Concordia. Montreal on the march once again at the midfield stripe. Let's go to game number 4, bring up the audio, and then we'll work to get you Manitoba and Calgary into this rotation of 4 as the Montreal pass is just intercepted and Concordia is bringing it back the other way.
Pierre, the veteran, one of the captains on defense, gets the interception off the bobble, and it will be first down Concordia again.
Kadim Pierre being one of the most important pieces of the defense.
So let's look at the replay here, Casito.
It was a quick throw, but given that KJ always run to the ball, he managed to capitalize on those mistakes. Now he tried to dance a little bit too much, but we give him.
And this could be a game changer, ladies and gentlemen. Concordia now at the 50-yard line, have not been in Montreal territory since the touchdown.
But as we mentioned, the turnover is going to be a key factor.
They need to get 5 yards to get into Montreal territory. Let's see if they can do it. Olivier Roy gets a snap. Will look to his right. Tries to find Allison and does. Gets a couple yards and will be stopped at about the 46-yard line. And now Concordia are now in Montreal territory. A 13-yard gain on the catch and run.
Okay, so that was a similar concept that we saw early on when it seems you previously dropped the ball.
And let's look at the replay here as Concordia adjusts.
Yeah, so we saw a deep route from Salvai, which opens up the lane for Alessandrini, and this one he managed to capitalize on this.
So first down Concordia. Olivier Roy waits for the snap. We'll get it. We'll go for a quarterback option and draw, and now we'll run to about the 38-yard line of Montreal. So it'll still be a second down, but about a 4-yard gain.
That's a courageous play of him, knowing that the pocket was collapsing. He didn't have any other choice.
Well, I believe it was a designed run there for Olivier Roy. Usually on those RPOs, Carlton said that he's not afraid to have Olivier Roy run a couple of times, and I think this one was one of those times where it was an RPO and it was a quarterback draw, a quarterback option, and Olivier Roy decided to take it and run.
Olivier's a tough boy. I do admit that.
Olivier Roy waits for a snap. Second down, Concordia. Gets it. Immediately goes to his right. Finds Alessandrini. Will be hit, but it will be a first down for Concordia. Stopped at about the 26-yard line of Montreal.
Wow, good job giving the immediate tackle to hold on to this ball.
Vince Alessandrini, the 5th-year veteran, getting 2 catches on this drive, 2 key ones, and is now a first down for Concordia as Concordia is now driving the field. They're now at least in field goal range if anything else happens.
Well, now we need to see a little bit more of adjustment coming from the Montreal backfield.
I know the Concordia is on the march, but Acadia looks like they're building something here on this drive. Let's go over to the audio of Bishop's Acadia.
Pass goes up the middle and wide open, and the ball was there. Jacob Guy had it laid on a platter, and perhaps we'll see the replay, another situation where maybe the receiver is looking upfield before he secured the ball.
Running before you get it, but right now that was a super play because he was there to be had. They brought some heat, Bishops did. That meant linebackers not where they're supposed to be. He was wide open.
And I think Jacob Guy also might have seen the defender, Zachary Foster, right in his eyeballs. Because Foster was right there waiting to lay a hit on, and a flag flies quickly into the backfield. Was Chris Sabat.
That was number 67 on Acadia who moved.
Yeah,
So
'cause-
John Grieve, he moved prior to snap the ball. We'll see if that brings it on.
And
Have a look.
watch number 94 for Bishops.
Gordon,
Chris
we're now
Savage.
joining the Calgary, Manitoba game. There you see Josiah Joseph being hunted down for a quarterback sack. This has to be a dream season for Josiah Joseph after playing those years with the Okanagan Sun, after being a backup to Adam Sinagra and getting some spot duty for the Calgary Dinos, to have both Philpott brothers in full stride. Just absolutely eye-popping, astounding numbers coming from these two. It's got to be a great way to cap off a senior year, especially after having to wait through that season of COVID to have this moment.
Totally. Josiah Joseph's been waiting a long time for this moment, and talk about a guy that's paid his dues, right? And not a guy with that pedigree that you necessarily associate with a Calgary Dino starting quarterback. Adam Sinagra is a great yin to his yang, a guy that was brought across the country as a high-end recruit right from the very beginning, whereas Josiah Joseph was a very good player in high school, but comes from the relative middle of the road. You likely haven't heard of it, School of Mount Boucherie in British Columbia. And I mean, I've played against Mount Boucherie. They run a solid program in the Kelowna area of BC, but not known as a national powerhouse. Josiah Joseph was not a guy that moved the needle too much when he went out to Calgary, and he's worked his way into this position to be at the helm of an offense with an incredible array of weapons at a school that is expecting to be competing for a national title again this year. So happy to see him, taking advantage of that opportunity so far and thriving. I know that he struggled a little bit against Regina last week, but they're off to a pretty good start here this week. So hopefully he can keep the ball rolling for his sake. I know there's a small part of me that's kind of cheering for Manitoba in this one, though, because I love a good underdog story, and they're off to a strong start. But they've been stifled early here. They need to find a way to get their offense going. Otherwise, Calgary can pull away from this pretty quick with the weapons that they have.
Well, you have to wonder how many years are left for head coach Brian Dobie at the University of Manitoba. He's crawling into his mid-60s right now. Maybe the most likable character that I've come across out of the entire group of head coaches across U Sports. I mean, here's a guy that literally loaned me his car because he felt sorry for me being at a hotel across the city from the stadium just to get around back in the days when I was doing play-by-play on Canada West football. This may be his swan song at the University of Manitoba, and what a way to go out right now with a team that's in first place in the Canada West with that 2-0 record.
Yeah, I mean, you talk to Brian Dobie, and he's got the energy of a man 20 years his junior still. There's a lot of life left in that man. So it wouldn't surprise me if he puts in a couple more years yet. I mean, to be honest with you, I think it would surprise me a little bit if he hangs it up after this season, just because you weather the whole pandemic shutdown and all of the unique challenges that go along with that, and then you're done after one season after that. That would surprise me a little bit. I would feel like you'd kind of want to get your money's worth with a couple more seasons after that. But I mean, different people reach the end of the line at different times. And when you start to get up to that age, it may just be a point where he stops and walks away and just goes, I'm done. I've done my piece and I'm getting tired. But football guys also tend to hang around, right? We thought potentially when Pat Sheehan was removed from his job at Queens, we thought that it might be that he might make the decision to hang it up at that point. And he's still going strong, decided to go get himself a coordinator's position and seems very happy in that position in a different part of the country than he'd been before. So, you never know with football guys.
Well, taking a look at the Montreal Concordia game, let's open that up and see just what happened there. Was there a fumble that led to a touchdown, or was it a safety dance?
It is first down and goal for Concordia.
Let's pick up the broadcasters from Montreal Concordia.
The quarterback again. So you believe that Concordia is just going to try and punch it.
It's not. It's familiar from him, knowing that. I think I'm not mistaken. He's one of a similar play against Laval.
And you talk about a vote of confidence from Brad Carlson. First down at the game. Gay finds the hole. Touchdown Stingers. And it's now a 50-8 game, barring anything else. However, there is an injured player on the field for Concordia. We hope that they are okay. but it is a touchdown. Let's look at the replay.
It was a great execution by Yoel, and I saw a huge gap coming from the left.
Let's look at the touchdown here. Just a great punch in by Adegege.
Yeah, the key role was made.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We've got on the line, we've got Mike Thomas from Football Sask and the beautiful city of Regina, really the football capital of Canada, at least Western Canada. Mike, thanks for joining us here. One of the things that we wanted to do with all of this U Sports action that we have in front of us is tie this opportunity that we have to connect with Canada to the grassroots of football. And, you know, one of the things that you and Regina Minor football do so well is the flag side and the flag program. Tell me where you are right now in terms of flag football and in terms of tackle football in the city of Regina, as we've all had to work very hard pulling out of this pandemic.
Yeah, it's been, you know, one of those things that you try to ensure that coming out of this situation that we were in the summer, that people understood and knew that their children were going to be in a game that they felt was going to be one that was safe and that they felt comfortable in being a part of. You know, fortunate for us here in Regina, being in the, you know, capital city and the Riders in our backyard, we had a large number of participants this year, one of our largest in the fall program, where we had just over 1,300 kids playing flag. So that's really nice. And it's something that, you know, when we look at the projected growth year over year has been on par. So even in a pandemic, we've been able to still sustain continual increase in those types of numbers. And looking at the from the contact side in terms of football with tackle football, I was very fortunate this fall to coach my son's team. And we actually just finished off our season a week and a half ago and led them. They led themselves as much as us coaches just kind of guided the ship. They went to an undefeated season and played very well. And it was just a testament to everything that Regina Minor football was able to do in terms of ensuring that everything was able to be done appropriately for teams, team assignments, game days, protocols, that sort of thing. And so this season, they ended up having just over, I think, 1,000 boys and girls playing tackle football here in the city. So it's actually playoff weekend as we're in the semifinals in Pee Wee and Bantam, as our season was done in Adam and we were the division champions. So that was pretty exciting. But now all of the boys that are looking to move up, we're actually going to the game tomorrow of the team that's in our same neighborhood that's in the semifinals. So, you know, it's kind of a great thing that these kids, you know, they love the game. They're, you know, they're wanting to still be a part of it, even though their seasons are over. Now they've moved over to hockey and getting ready for basketball and soccer and those sorts of things, but they love the sport. And the best part about it has been the continual growth and understanding of the game amongst our female population, which has been blossoming in droves here in the South. And our northern counterparts are getting things rolling as well. So, you know, when we have our girls playing in the Prairie Girls Football League right now with Regina Minor's Victoria's team, they've been playing very well. There's teams also in Moosomin and Estevan, Melville, and Yorkton. And it's a great scene here for us football-wise in the fall, as you guys are talking about things are going on and obviously in the U Sport world. But it's even better when we look at our junior football scene in terms of how the Thunder are doing and the Hilltops are nipping on their heels. And after we're done, I'm actually heading off to the U of R game to watch the game here with my son here right away.
Talk to me about the Thunder and the Hilltops. That was an eye-opener for a lot of us that were out here on the coast, seeing that sweep by the Thunder over the Saskatoon Hilltops. Now, was it a surprise? Now, you've got a Regina bias, of course, but was that a surprise to people within the province?
You know what? I think it's always a surprise when you look at a team the caliber of the Hilltops and the history that they've had, the run that they're on. But at the same time, you know, head coach Scott McCauley with the Regina Thunder and his coach and staff and guys, they've been beating the bush and putting in the work in the time frame that we were allowed to here in the province during the pandemic, in terms of when the players could do individual workouts, how that was working, and when they could get together, how that was all put together. Tom Sargent and that crew up in Saskatoon, they always find a way, regardless of what talent they have. They're always in the thick of things, as we can see across their storied history in the CJFL. Was it a surprise? I think the first one was a surprise when you have a walk-off 51 or 53-yard field goal by Eric Maximiuk. The second game, I was present for that, and it was a back and forth affair, and it really came down to a couple plays, really and honestly. Saskatoon missed on one of the gadget plays in the fourth, which the receiver was wide open behind the defense, and the ball got overthrown, and that could have easily turned the tides. And then obviously the Thunder got the ball back with not too much time, through a bubble screen. Receiver made one guy miss and then took it to the house. So, their games have been exciting. And the one thing they always say in football is that it's tough to beat the same team 3 times. And that's probably what it's going to be in the PFC final. Not saying that the Hilltops are going to come out victorious, or saying that the Thunder won't have an opportunity. It's going to be another great game. And I know that it'll be definitely a packed affair when that game happens.
Mike, we've got Emery Dale playing with the Saskatoon Hilltops. We've got a female kicker that was the first female Canadian to score points in an NCAA game. In our film festival, we've got Rena Azuka, who was the first woman to break through into a roster of a Canada West team. And by the way, I invite everyone to go over to the 5 films that we have over in the film festival. They really take a snapshot of diversity and commitment of football in Canada. Where are we at as we are having a discussion at the very same time, as is happening right now, a women's and girls conference, with the development of female football in this country, not just on the flag side, but the tackle side as well, as we get geared up to send a women's team to a world championship next year. We showed very well the last time there was a world championship in 2017. Jeff Yowsey put a fantastic team together that was the first team to score touchdowns against Team USA at a international. Where are we at in terms of developing women's football, and what is the potential there?
It's really a wide open question when you ask it, Jim, simply because it really depends on the area of the country that you're in, because you can see different developments at different paces and different rates. When I speak about our own province here in Saskatchewan, as I mentioned, from a non-contact side, things are going really well in terms of development programs from grassroots levels all the way through to girls' high school flag programs being established, all the way through to women's non-contact flag leagues, and obviously with the women's national team being comprised of a lot of women from Saskatchewan. We can tell that from our province's standpoint, it's something that's going along at a very good pace. But, we've also started, like I mentioned, the Prairie Girls Football League, which is 5 teams right now, and it's looking to expand to 6 and 7 here in the next little bit. So, when you look at that and just even the new opportunities that are happening from a university standpoint, we established a university flag football program at the University of Regina from a club model that'll begin here shortly. They've just finished their head coach's search and will be having their player opportunities here shortly. University of Saskatchewan is in discussion with Football Saskatchewan in regards to how to be able to launch that appropriately. And so those are the things that we're seeing here, but knowing how our counterparts across the country are, especially, kind of our rival, as we would say, in Quebec, they're doing some of the exact same things. So, the great thing about it is when we're seeing this progress is it's something that's contagious, and that, when your province sees another province doing something, you don't want to get left behind. So, realistically speaking, we hope and know that there are other parts of the country that are doing things. In Ontario, they do have a women's flag football program through the university ranks. I think it runs in the winter. And in Atlanta, Canada, and in Quebec, obviously with the Blitz, they've got women's tackle football. So, it's not just that. It's also just opportunities for women in the game. As we've seen recently, with the rise of some women that have been a part of CFL franchises, moved over to the NFL, and Kathleen Rach. who's I think with Philadelphia, as well as some other prominent women who are with NFL franchises. And it's extending itself to other components as well, into the boardroom and just even to the ground level with staffs in different provinces. That's something we value and have as a growing stepping stone and something that was an awareness piece, because as a lot of football programs are across the country and I would say across the world, they're mostly male, predominantly dominated in terms of positions of power or positions of influential decision making, and yet we're trying to have a game be played by another gender where they may not see and or hear that voice being bestowed upon them. So I think it's something that is twofold, not just from a playing aspect, but also from a coaching and from an administrative aspect that I think is growing and needs to grow. And hopefully the changes are coming, because this is just such a great opportunity to lead the future in terms of how women's football and girls football can begin and prosper. And it starts now, and hopefully it started already and is going to continue to grow as we nurture and water and continue to give opportunities to women in the sport.
If you want to see a great example of that, we have a short film on the all Aboriginal girls team up at Fort Mackay in Alberta, a town that's an hour outside of Fort McMurray. The road goes into that town. The next road out of it is an ice road. It's literally at the end of the road, and they found a way to play football. So I think there's some great examples and some great foundations to build on for the women's game as well. Mike Thomas, Football Sass, thanks very much for coming on. We appreciate your commitment to the game.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on, Jim. Hope everyone has a great weekend and a great celebration of football here in the country.
Thanks very much. Okay, Gord, you had the opportunity to keep your eyes glued to these 4 games as they were going on. Give me a quick snapshot of each of them.
Yes, I did. Sorry if I'm cutting you off. I lost your audio very briefly there. But Acadia, as you can see, knocking on the door right now in a tie game. And looks like they may have just punched it in here. Yes, they have. And the other development was it looks like Montreal fumbled and lost a fumble deep in Concordia's end, turning the ball over there too. So some interesting developments out east right now. Carlton on the march. That game is still scoreless, and Calgary threatening to kind of put this one on ice already as they're driving into Manitoba territory up 17-2 right now. So that game's a little bit more lopsided than we'd expected from the outset. Calgary looks like they're determined to make a statement today. But a nice little game going on in Wolfville right now, and another good one going on in Montreal, despite the weather conditions. It might be a sloppy one, but Connu hanging in there, and I got to be honest, I'm kind of pulling for them. They're not the perennial powerhouse of the two, that's for sure. And I think that they've had a really good season. The only 2 games they've lost, they can't figure out Laval, but everybody else they've been right there with and looking every bit a potential top tier team in that conference. So I'm keeping a close eye on that one too, because that one's been an entertaining affair so far. Yeah, Calgary really looks to be getting into a spot here where they can blow the doors off of Manitoba on their home field. This one may not end up with a very pretty score, even though we projected this game to be even if there were a point spread applied to it. The game that I want to jump into right now is Montreal and Concordia. After Montreal extended their lead by 4, let's pick up the broadcast crew and pick up a drive on this one.
Montreal has decided that they will elect to have Concordia kick it off the safety instead of starting at the 35. Trying to trust their returners to get a bit more yards than what they want. Instead of starting at the 35. Andrew Stevens will probably try and kick this as far as possible. And he'll kick it away. All the way down. Hold at the 19-yard line. Will get some hole, and he does. Finds another hole, but will be tackled by Gabriel Duquette and will be stopped at about the 51-yard line. Alexis Boulanger again finding that hole on the right side, Casito.
Yeah, they use the same returning scheme on this one. I mean, there's a lot of production with it, so if it's not broken, don't fix it.
So 30.1 seconds left. Let's look at the replay here, Casito, before Montreal starts their drive.
Hey, you always start leaning towards the inside, and then whichever holes happens to be on the Badgering side, this is where it's going.
So Montreal would need about 30 yards here. Between 25 and 30 yards to be in field goal range to get an extra 3 points. So 30.1 seconds left. They do have a timeout, however. Ooh, there's a miscommunication there. Tries to throw it and does. Complete by Montreal, and will be stopped in Concordia territory at about the 47.
Okay, he threw the ball. He threw the ball to a familiar face. Jared Taylor, as we see a previous receiver here at Concordia that decided to transfer.
Yep, Jared Taylor there on the catch. So first down, Montreal. 22 seconds and counting. Snap is good. Give it to Bertrand Beaulieu. Tries to find a hole and will be stopped at about the 40 or 39 yard line with 14.4 seconds left. Montreal's going to try and hurry up as fast as possible here to get the ball back, as soon as the whistle will be blown, the clock will start winding again.
We might see more balls throwing on the outside the numbers to try to go out about it to stop the clock.
So 14.4 seconds and counting. Clock whistle has been blown. 10 seconds and counting. Trentin Sénécal trying to get his players to hurry up. Gives it to Bertrand Beaulieu again. Beaulieu finds a hole, but trips on himself, and the ball was fumbled. But no further action, and the clock expires. Now there is a flag on the play. Now, with penalty will probably be declined here, and that will be the end of the half. Penalty is declined, and that is the end of the first half. And with that, Montreal leads 20-16 over Concordia. We'll be right back in about 2 minutes with our halftime report. You are watching the broadcast of the Concordia Stingers football team on your TV.
Expect the field to be a little bit slick.
Though it's not like the old Richardson Stadium, which was grass and would look like a quagmire by the second half after rainfall like that. Keenan wide open. And for a first down is Sebastian Hansen. Great protection by the line. Allowed that slow crossing play to get open.
And Keenan going probably to about a second or third read here. As you see, looks left, looks deep, and then comes back underneath with Hansen with the drag route across the middle underneath the linebacker zone. First time for the Gales into the Ravens end of the field.
Anthony Souls checks in to give Rashid Tucker a bit of a break. And this time, the Ravens jump again. But
a couple little things on the offensive line we could change up, and we got beat on a couple slants and slices in there, and they got us for a couple negatives. So, if we can fix and clean some of that stuff up, I think we have a chance.
Coach Jeff Cummins, thanks for your time. Good luck in the second half.
Take care, guys.
You as well. That is
by the defense.
Jeff Cummins, the head coach of the Acadia Axemen. As most of these games are now drifting into halftime, with the exception of Carlton and Queens. Queens offense, not the strength of this program, Gord Randall.
Just gets back to the line. Not this year, at least. That being said, it's an offensively oriented head coach, and Steve Snyder's come from some very successful offensive systems. Western being his most recent stop, of course. And it is a balanced attack from Queens. One of the things you don't necessarily see is them having big explosive plays. They're more of a chunk offense, as we just saw kind of on that crosser route to Sebastian Hansen. One of the things that Queens has had in spades this year is they have had generally pretty good offensive line play, although as you're looking right now, Keenan's getting spilled a little bit. But it's not necessarily the standout feature of this undefeated Queens team, but in this year, with the types of results they put up on that defensive side of the ball, they don't necessarily need to be putting up the 40 points a game to win games like the Queens teams were in my heyday out there. So definitely a very different character of Queens team than some of their elite teams of the past this year. That's for sure.
Queens on the march right now. Let's take a look at some of these scores. Montreal leading Concordia 20-16 at the half. Bishops and Acadia in a close one. Calgary threatening to really turn that game against Manitoba into a blowout, barring some halftime adjustments. What are the big surprises? I would actually suggest probably the biggest surprise is Western's dominance, as you see the Western score up there, over Windsor. I certainly didn't expect Windsor to go in and win that game in London. I didn't expect Western to make the same mistakes that Mcmaster made against Windsor with those 3 interceptions, but that was total dominance. That was a reality check, I think, for the Windsor program, even though if you would have asked the folks in Windsor if they would be happy after 5 weeks being 4-4, I'm sure they'd be thrilled.
Yeah, I would say that they would be thrilled with that too. But I mean, they're far from the first kind of upstart OUA program that has run into the Western buzzsaw and all of a sudden seen themselves turn back into a little bit of a pumpkin. I would say the other result that's surprising me quite a bit right now is also in the OUA, and it's Laurier being up big on Mcmaster. Now, I don't know what's going on at Mcmaster right now, but they are really struggling. We saw that they had a pretty sloppy game last week in losing to Windsor. You know, Andreas Dueck is a very talented quarterback. Jim, you and I saw him down in Mexico City a few years ago. He's got all the arm talent in the world. Saw some field time as a true freshman. You know, he's a guy that we've been waiting to take that next step, and he just hasn't quite done it yet. And so I would say that on the whole, Mcmaster has probably been one of the more disappointing teams across the country for me this year. You know, an elite head coach and Stefan Potasic, you know, he's been there for a couple of years now to put some talent together in his image. We thought that they were going to be closer to the Western tier and challenging the top end of that OUA West. And it appears that they're closer to the bottom of that OUA West right now. And this is just another result in that direction. So I would say that's my biggest surprise of the day personally.
Yeah, after the mistakes in the Windsor game, we were pointing this out. I don't think we're even on air yet as we were pointing this out. We had the opportunity to watch the first 5 minutes of that game on our stream here. 2 defensive touchdowns scored by Laurier, one by Ryan Long on an interception return, another by Patrick Burke Jr. 4 minutes and 20 seconds into this thing, Mcmaster was down 14 Cobb. And I think the really disappointing thing about Mcmaster's performance today is that at no point has the offense responded.
Yeah, and that's one of the hardest situations to work through as a coaching staff or as a group of players is you come out early and it's not just that you get scored on twice, but it's that it doesn't really feel like the other team earned it. And not to take away from the plays that were made there by the Laurier defense, but for you as a football team, if you're on the other end of that, like Mcmaster is, you're looking at that being like we just handed them 14 points. It's not that they drove down the field and beat us. It's that we beat ourselves. And that's so demoralizing to deal with right off the hop in a game. It's tough to bounce back from that. But I would have hoped for at least a little bit of a push from Mcmaster coming out of the half. Right, you try and limit the damage for the rest of the first half, and then you find a way to catch your breath and regroup at the half, and they've just had nothing. And maybe nothing's not fair, but ultimately it hasn't resulted in any points, so it hasn't really mattered. And so I got to believe that they're going to walk out of this one quite disappointed with the effort from beginning to end. But it's really, really hard to win football games when you put yourself in that position right off the hop. I mean, not only do you factor in the points themselves, but the morale of just never really getting going and having those mistakes bite you back to back. That's really hard to bounce back from. So unfortunately for Mcmaster, they kind of beat themselves before this game was 10 minutes over.
Mount Allison it now has more than 20 points in a game. I think that's reason to celebrate. They've got 24 up on the board in theirs after their 10, 10, and 19-point performances. They're actually producing something on offense, which is refreshing to see. Now let's go over to Queens and Carlton. And, you know, I think if you're a real defensive aficionado, you're going to like what you see here. Out of the Queens defense coming up. Let's go to the broadcast crew at Carlton and Queens.
That's where Carlton will start, 1st and 10. Their last drive ending in the interception by Van Conant. And we saw that last week, Donnie, with the Guelph quarterback staring down their receivers.
Exactly. Van Konen in that first quarter, 3 of 7 for 34, and the interception by McCallum. Nathan Carter in that first quarter, just 6 yards on 4 carries for the Ravens.
And
a little bit of a delay getting the yard markers down. The yardsticks down.
well, I don't think they're in the right spot unless and of course the crowd is pointing that out to the official who hasn't.
They have that sliding disc they mark on the one of the 5-yard marks, and then I think they got to slide them back a couple yards here.
They will.
And now their disc is out by 2 yards. Anyway.
Back to the game, thankfully.
No more yardstick talk.
Van Konen out of the gun. Hand off. And not getting back to the line of scrimmage is Joshua Ferguson. And again, the Gales all over the run of the Carlton Ravens.
And this is not necessarily what we saw in that first week matchup. Freud Cesar.
Gordy, here's the one thing about the Carlton offense. If you can't get Nathan Carter going, you're not going at all. Prior to that, he was 6 yards on 4 carries here. Just a little ways into the second quarter. They got to get more production on the ground here.
They do, and I mean, Tanner DeYoung's also a senior quarterback at this level too now, and you would kind of have hoped for a little bit more out of him this season, in my opinion, at least. But you know, Carlton has an experienced offensive line. You see another tackle for loss there from the Queens front. You know, Queens lining up 3 and they're beating the pass protection of Carlton. That's just not what you want. You know, they bring back Jesse Lawson, CFL draft pick, to play tackle for them this year. He's held down the left side all right, but unfortunately for Carlton, the rest of that offensive line has struggled to create what they need to create on offense. You know, they had one lengthy drive put together that they stalled out just outside of field goal range, and now it's been a slog for them again today. So, and it looks like they're going to have to give up the first 2 points of the game here because of their offensive ineptitude. So, you know, but take a look at the other side. Like, that Queens defense just keeps on rolling. All 3 levels of that defense are playing at a high level right now, and I'm really impressed because I did not necessarily see indication that they were going to take this big of a jump. And that defensive unit has been really impressive throughout the season, which I know is something that we've detailed before, but I think it's worth, it bears repeating because, you know, we thought that maybe there would be a reality check for them last week in their crossover game against Guelph, you know, a Guelph team that beat Western, I should point out. And they were still just locked in, held Guelph to single digit points in the win. So really, really impressive first. Well, I guess it's almost 2/3 of a season now for this Queens defense.
Let's check into Manitoba and Calgary and see if Manitoba has a response to a solid effort by Calgary in that first half.
There's 2 more flags on the play here. I'm guessing it's going to be holding on the Bisons. It's a good run there by Rashad, but unfortunately that's going to be called back here.
Something, John, we haven't talked about a lot in this one yet, at least, is the Bison's offensive line. This is a group that, up until week 1, didn't have a career U-Sport start. Now, granted, there were a couple guys with with CJFL experience. Ryder Klosowski, a member of the Saskatchewan Hilltops, 5-time national champs, a teammate of Ben Abrook on the Calgary Dinos for those teams, and also Halem Herzai at the left tackle position as well for the Bisons with CJFL experience.
Wow. Fantastic run there by Rashad.
He gains back the penalty yardage there for Manitoba.
Matt Stockman also starting his second career game at right tackle for the Bisons on a Vincent Massey Collegiate. Tashawn Rojas, he's a product of the Calgary Colts, another junior football player. And then Mateo Vaccaro, been with the team since 2019, product of St. Paul's. But it is a young team in terms of U Sports experience in that regard. Yeah. 2nd and 8 here for the Bisons. Tuchinski back to pass. And that one is just short of the intended target there, and it looked to be Kai Madsen.
Keep your feet underneath you there, Jackson. I think he had a bit of a wide base there, letting go of the football. And anytime you find yourself as a quarterback with that wide base, it's tough to get the ball all the way out there, and he throws it a bit short there for Kai. Keep your feet underneath you. He's got to have that little bounce in his step at the top of his drop. It's tough.
Now joined by Tim Enger, the Executive Director of Football Alberta. Tim, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure, Jim. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. We're in the bit of a marathon here. I feel like we should have a big tote board behind us here as we raise the, funds in a telethon. Tim, what is the scene like in Alberta right now, managing this sport through waves of COVID? Like, you and I have had discussions over these last 2 years now, where numbers have come back and then there's more management, numbers come back, more management. How has the football community been faring throughout Alberta?
Well, I think fairly well comparatively. Obviously in Alberta, we've, through whatever decisions were made or whether it just was going to happen anyways, we probably have more COVID than anybody else per capita. And so it's caused, some shutdowns here and there. But for the most part, we were really proud last year during the height of all the restrictions that we were able to get about 75% of our minor teams on field, and about 50% of the high school teams were able to do something. Now, obviously, there were no playoffs, there were no provincials or anything like that, but they did something, and they kept the sport alive. And we gave it awards at the end of the year, not for coaches of the year, but just for people who kept the lights on, which is the way we phrased it. So then this year's been good. I mean, we've pretty much everybody's going. We've had some high schools that have struggled to get back on. We really noticed that those high schools that were able to do something during the 2020 season were just fine when they came back. Those that weren't, a few of them struggled. We've had a few programs in Central Alberta that have had to drop down to either 9-man or 6-man, which is just fine. But these were traditionally strong 12-man programs. But other than that, everything's kind of rolling. We haven't been given any indication there's going to be any effects on our provincials, which come up in November. The university and junior teams are going just fine, and it's great to see. And the one thing we have had, which is really weird and strange at the same time, is that our high school crowds are insane. Like we used to, when I played, it was family and friends, and it hasn't changed much over the past gazillion years since I've been here. But even I was just doing public address in a couple games at a Division II game last night from two teams that were miles and miles away from the stadium, and it was sold out. And it's gotten to the point in Calgary where they've actually had to just limit the people attending the games to family and guardians and siblings, and that's it, because there's, I guess, nothing else to do, or people have been waiting for something. But it's been awesome. It's a really great atmosphere, and we're glad our numbers are kind of going down, which means that we should be able to complete the season as best we can.
Gord Randall is a high school coach with the Sullivan Stars. Gord, I'm sure you have a question of Tim when it comes to the state of high school football in Alberta, maybe versus whatever situation you're going through in British Columbia.
Yeah, I mean, Tim, you talked about rewarding coaches for keeping the lights on. What are some of the things that your organization is doing to try and encourage growth in new areas? Because I think that's the biggest pressing issue, at least in our neck of the woods right now, is finding ways where we can make inroads where we don't already have established high school programs. Are there any initiatives that you guys have in the works to try and encourage that kind of growth?
Well, we have. We've always had good support from the provincial government with a couple of grant programs, like community initiative programs, community facility programs, that if anybody's even interested, I even had a phone call from the principal of Edson High School the other day, and they have never had a program, and he's interested now. So, but it's about a $70,000 touch to get a team going right off the bat. So So these grants do help. We've had grants through Football Alberta to supplement that as well. The one thing we did have actually back in the early 2000s was an incredible amount of growth. I mean, it wasn't, we love to take credit for it, but it was just kind of happening. But it was kind of a bit of overgrowth as well. There were programs that were starting that probably shouldn't have started and didn't have the support. So our main focus now is that if it's a high school program, you really shouldn't be going forward with anything until you get at least one person in the school, a teacher, an administrator, somebody who's going to have their finger on it. Because if you try to if the community's behind it, but the school is not willing to get a teacher or some kind of administrator behind it, then you're going to struggle. And we've really noticed that with a lot of programs that kind of flamed out within a couple of years of creation. So we're at a pretty stable level right now. There isn't really a town in Alberta over 5,000 that doesn't have some semblance of football in it. And our big push is working with the Alberta Schools Athletic Association, working with the Alberta Teachers Association, working with the Alberta retired teachers, anybody who's dealing with teachers and administration to make sure that there is some solid support within the schools, because that is our biggest danger going forward, regardless of where we are, is if administration in a school does not support the program by having, boots on the ground within the hallways, it's tough.
When I look up at Fort McKay and the video that we have out of there in our Video Shorts Festival, I think it's a tremendous story of adaptability in terms of creating a girls' league that Aboriginal girls can pursue. And when I say adaptability, it's six-man. It's the First Nation in Fort McKay stepping up. It's those parts of the community. Talk to me about that girls' league that exists, and talk to me about how, as a leader of a provincial organization, especially coming out of COVID, you've had to probably preach adaptability about six-man, nine-man, being a way just to get out and play football, rather than there's a coach's mindset out there that only 12 and 11-man football is real football. How do you break through that?
Yeah, we've had good discussions at our board level, and we've brought on there's been a kind of a Johnny Appleseed of six-man football in Alberta, named Corey Colwell out of Breton. And Breton is about as far, you just start driving it off Highway 2 between Edmonton and Red Deer until you run out of roads and you get to Breton. So it's a small little group, and he came from Saskatchewan and wanted to start six-man for a school of 60 and managed. The six-man group is kind of accordion between 12 teams to 21 teams and back and forth. So right now it's about 16 teams, but we make sure that they're represented on our board and make sure that we have discussions in that regard, because what we view nine-man and six-man football is with our programs is we call them lifeboats, because do you want to play football or not? Even some of our larger schools, if for whatever reason the interest isn't there, instead of shuttering the program, you can go down to play six-man or nine-man and maybe get your act together to go back to 12-man. But six-man and 12-man are football. There's no question about it. And it has allowed us to operate begin the women's tackle for high school age girls operate as well. I mean, if we were trying to start 12 on 12, it would be limiting for us. But 6 on 6, we can get a whole bunch of teams, and that's what's happened. And even the gang in Fort McKay, they can recognize that there's a limited population base up there to begin with, but 6 on 6 is the way to go. It's the way to start, and it's been great, because our opinion has always been the only barrier to female participation in football is interest. If they're interested, we'll find a way to make it work, and that's what the good people in the Capital District Association in Edmonton have done by forming the female tackle league in the spring and putting it out there to anybody. And then you get great people like up in Fort McKay that have just said, okay, let's go for it. And it's a tremendous endeavor for them. Like, it is a long trip to get for them to play any games, but they're committed and they're having fun, and win or lose, football is making a difference in their community.
Well, Tim, thanks very much for everything that you do with Football Alberta and what your team does up there. It's a great football culture throughout the province of Alberta. We have the Dinos on the screen right now, the defending Vanier Cup champions, 3 junior teams, all the way down through the grassroots. We really appreciate your time and commitment to the sport.
Thanks very much, and we appreciate everything you guys do, and good luck with the rest of the broadcast.
Great, thanks very much. Tim Enger from Football Alberta, and Gord's eyes have been focused on these games that are in front of us. Montreal Concordia just starting up again. A bit of a dogfight between Acadia and Bishops. And it looks like, if I'm going to guesstimate in this Carlton Queens game, we've got another safety coming down the pipeline, Gord.
Yeah, very RSEQ-esque Rouge Fest so far in this OUA East matchup, as Carlton does indeed take another safety here. And, for Queens, they haven't broken through on offense yet, but they have created enough offense to keep Carlton on their heels. And I mean, like we said before, another stifling performance, by the Queens defense so far.
Yeah, get that safety off my screen. Get that safety off my screen.
I mean, why don't we avoid the safeties and go back to Concordia and Montreal, right?
Yeah, no, actually, well, there's been a safety or two in this game, but you know, the one thing that I find uplifting about this game is you've got two teams that are willing to use some gadgets and go vertical. There's some creativity in this Montreal Concordia game, and it gets to the point that you were talking about 2 weeks ago on Crown Gridiron Nation, where we're talking about how offenses are not performing in the Canadian Football League. The creativity of 12-man football is at this level we're watching right here. And for those who may have not seen it on Gridiron Nation, you brought up a couple of good points indicating why that level of creativity and execution is essentially better at the U Sports level for 12-man ball than it is at the CFL level right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I should point out too, like, this has long been a trend in the American game too, that the innovation tends to come at the amateur levels before it reaches the pros. But I think a couple factors. One is that there's a lot less turnover at this university level than there is at the professional level. Now, I would say college age athletes are inherently more volatile than professional athletes in terms of what you're gonna get out of them, what else is going on in their lives, those kinds of things. But a lot of these coordinators have had multiple years to work with most of their offensive starters, and not just like 2 years, but in some cases 4 or 5 years. That shutdown last year, if you were able to keep your players engaged throughout that shutdown, you've got guys coming back with a year of practice under their belt and in their 6th year of playing for you in some cases. So I think that's one of the reasons is the familiarity with the players in the scheme. And you've also got offensive coordinators that in a lot of cases are Canadian themselves, have spent a lot of time around this game. And so they've had a lot of time to put into this too. So, I mean, I think those are a couple of reasons why. And then the other thing on the other side of the ball is, in the CFL, one of the trends these days is to try and stack up your defense with as many Americans as possible. And so in some ways, these CFL teams are kind of making a conscious decision to err on the side of defense, which is a trend that I would really like to see change in the CFL. But when you get to the U Sports level, you're not getting that. Right? You're getting a much more level playing field in terms of the makeup of both sides of the ball. So you're getting defenses that aren't as stifling in a lot of cases either, I think.
Let's dip into that Bishops Acadia game. Not only is the coverage good, but it's an intense game. It's an enjoyable game in terms of entertainment factor right now. It's right up there with this Montreal Concordia game. Let's go to their broadcast crew with AUS TV.
Who knows, but 3rd and 6.
I did not realize Patterson was the holder. I don't know if he's the holder
there we go.
all the time.
I didn't either. Look at that.
We'll have to check that out. This might be a fake.
Keep an eye on it here, and it is indeed. You called it, Coach, and he is absolutely wrapped up and looks to be suffering a little bit after coming in and laying the lick was Cal Gray from Chelsea, Quebec. Wow. My goodness, let's take a look here. That's a big hit on the quarterback.
Acadia fortunate that this doesn't go all the way back. There's a great hit.
Well, Gord, that reminds me of last week in the NCAA when Ottawa native Samuel Obiang intercepted a flea flicker. That's what that play right there reminds me of. Not only a gadget play and a fake field goal, but a great defensive action by Bishops.
I'm not sure if he's the regular holder. If he's not, Bishops.
Let's go back to the call of Bishops and Acadia on AUS TV.
Now back to offense. Hand off to Gregoire. as McGriskin gets it into the hands of his running back, and Gregoire grinds out maybe a yard or two.
Well, Ben George is quite capable from that distance. Would have put them up 14-8, but that second guessing is easy. It didn't work. Bishops came up with the big hit.
Well, the thing is that I'm not a defensive coordinator, but even I could almost see that that was an obvious fake and that Patterson was going to throw it. There you see Coach Cummins, the Riverboat Gambler. That one didn't pay off for him. 2nd and 8 for Bishops on their 38-yard line. Couple of step drop back. McGriskin tucks it and runs. He's got yards and slides down at about the 48-yard line.
Oh, he just come up short. He's saying it to himself there. Just another step, but he wanted to get down wisely so. We haven't seen him run much. This is well done and just comes up about a yard and a half short.
2 carries, 11 yards for the Bishops quarterback McGriskin, and just a toenail short on that run. He had the right idea. And as a quarterback, that's what you're told to do. Slide. Don't take the hit if you don't have to, but just a little short. That'll bring up a 3rd and 1.
That's true, but at times, you know, if you know you're going to be a yard, you can sell yourself. But he chose not to, and I'm not condemning that whatsoever. It was a smart move.
So Bishops will have to punt. Again, a territorial battle here between Bishops and Acadia. It's a fight for field position. A better punt this time for Bishops. High, hanging into the air. No fair catch again, and we've got a flag down. We'll have to wait and see if that was just for ball position or if there's actually an infraction on the play.
That's a no yards, and it was caught in the air, so that's going to be 15-yard penalty. That is huge for field position because Bishops wanted to keep. Have a look at this. Kicked so high, and that's close.
Okay, so Acadia...
You know, sometimes
just the pigskin pops out, but I believe they recover it. There's going to be a discussion there, but the defense is on the field for Bishops. So what that allows us to do is switch on over to Montreal Concordia, and let's pick up the call of that game right now.
Tries to go deep towards the middle, and it is caught. Hassan Dosso with the catch and a first down. Very dangerous there as the official was almost in the way to contest that catch.
It's part of the work.
Hassan Dosso with the first down. I believe it was about a 40-yard pass. 40-yard pass and catch.
Use every tool at your own situation, advantages.
We'll have the replay here. Let's look at it.
But they're mainly throwing to Dosso when he's on a man-to-man situation with the strong side corner.
Beat his man, was all alone, and was able to get the catch. So first down, Montreal at Concordia's 30-yard line. Jonathan Syndical gets the snap, fakes it to Laurier, gets it to Chabot. Chabot tries to find a hole. He does. Tries to go towards the middle, cuts a bit more tackles. Tries to roll to the right side. It does. Tries to break a tackle. Keeps still on his feet, still going in. Tries to break a couple more and will be stopped at about the 5-yard line. What a great catch and run by Cal Chabot, and it'll be first down.
What a run by Carl
Montreal.
Chabot on that reception. He has been so effective, especially on that hitch screen throughout the year when he gets some bodies in front of him. He can find space. He makes space all on his own, and full points for someone that size, Gord, to find a way to cut back against the grain and leave himself exposed.
Yeah, well, less exposed than somebody who's, say, 6 feet tall would be. And maybe that's part of what Carl Chabot's secret is that half the defense can't see him coming. But, yeah, I mean, another guy that we saw a couple years ago down in Mexico City playing for Team Canada and saw the potential of him there. And we saw little flashes for him for the Caravan in his first couple of seasons. And he's really come into his own this season and become one of their core weapons on offense, as it looks like the Carbs have put this one into the end zone here to open up a gap on Concordia, and they're going to need to answer quickly. Concordia is if they're going to stay in this game, because they really need to try and pull this one out if they're going to stay in the thick of things in the queue. So that being said, the way things are looking, like Concordia is going to have to figure out a way to beat one of these two top teams in the playoffs come the first round of the playoffs. I think if they win this one, Montreal would move into first place, if I'm not mistaken. So I would set up Laval Concordia for the first round of the playoffs. Not an ideal setup for Concordia, the Stingers, if they end up in that situation.
Montreal at 4-1, Laval at 4-2, Concordia at 3-2, if I'm not mistaken. So. Obviously Concordia going on the road, probably facing Laval, although they are playing a full 8-game season in Quebec. So Rock Fight Part 2 will happen between Montreal and Laval, which will eventually decide first place. The edge for Montreal on that is they get to host that game. So that's the upside for the Caravan. So this game is the Montreal Concordia game, waiting for an extra point, and it's up and through. So look for Olivier Waugh to start going very, very vertical and start getting aggressive at the quarterback position for Concordia. I'm loving this. I'm loving this Bishops Acadia game, Gord. I'm loving this.
Well, and how about Bishops, right? A program that has had its struggles over the last number of years, and Sheriff Nicholas there has done a great job of building through the shutdown. And I think that this is one of the themes that I've seen in our high school football ranks too, is that you're getting some topsy-turvy results because different teams weathered the shutdown differently. And like I feel pretty good about where my program is at right now. But I didn't realize, we were facing some struggles to open the season. I didn't realize where we were in comparison to some of these other programs. And it's looking like Bishops has weathered that shutdown quite well and set themselves up to start competing for titles in the AUS. So that being said, they need to add some points here. 8 points deep into the third quarter here is not going to get the job done. So they're going to have to figure out how to put something up here to get back into this one. But they're holding it tight. That defense has been really stingy, and so it's a good effort for them as the oil fly breaks out in Kingston. I see.
Yeah, Sebastian Hansen on the receiving end of that James Keenan pass for the Queens touchdown. So something happening in the end zone more than just the safety in Kingston, Ontario. That is refreshing to see. Calgary in control over Manitoba right now, 20-5. I don't see the trend in that game changing. Let's go back to Bishops Acadia as they're driving into the red zone.
And it's not that he's not getting tired, but look at him just turn it on as he finds the open field, spins to get another probably 7 to 9 yards. So they're down in scoring territory on the Bishops 11.
So they are 1st and 10. They're calling it the 12. Estabrooks, whale of a game. He again lined up in that familiar position right behind Patterson. Patterson goes to the right. Reception is made over there. Little sidestep, jumping out of bounds was Perry, and a flag on the play.
Saw that flag. Now, could be holding. When you get into those wide receiver screens, it's called stock blocking when you're out there alone with the defender, and there's a temptation to grab people.
Holding. Acadia.
So watch the stock block. See right there how he grabs him by the jersey as he tries to get out. Blocking in the open field is one of the hardest things to do. What you have to learn is move your feet where your hands were, and you got them blocked out totally. He reaches with his hands, grabs the player, gets the holding call. That's their first poor play on this drive for Acadia.
And Coach Jeff Cummins not at all happy with that, but they've got to carry on now. 1st and 20, marked at the 22-yard line of Bishops. And there's Gledhill. Takes the cheeky little handoff. Tries to cut to the left, but well read by the defense of Bishops.
Well, it was number 24, Cal Gray. Watch him take away the corner. If he doesn't do that, he's outside. You got the big guys getting out there. There he is. 40 does it, but 24 was outside, took away that corner. There you see him pushing.
Right, and then Gomez got in there, number 40. So again, the play read very well by Bishops as the defense, who's a little beleaguered right now, on this drive from Acadia, comes up with a big defensive play there. So now 2nd and very long. 2nd and 20, again from the 22 of Bishops. 2:07 to play, third quarter. They fake the handoff, go right across the middle, and again, great defensive play as it's broken up, but again, we see a flag fly.
We'll wait to see the call. It's in the area of holding, and it is a holding against Acadia.
Stephen Wise was there defensively as Gledhill was the intended receiver.
Now the difficulty is, do you decline or take the penalty? And the contact comes right away.
Holding. Acadia. Penalty's been declined. 3rd down.
So, 10 yards.
So the defense of Bishops, who was on their heels a little bit, gets some help from Acadia by the way of a couple of costly penalties in the last few series of plays.
So they'll go for this field goal, wanting to get some points out of what was a great drive till they got down to the red zone.
Patterson in the hole, but again, I don't think we're going to see a fake coming here. Kick is up, it's away, and the kick is good. So the lead extended now. That 3 points makes it 14-8.
Well, I can't tell you for sure because he may hold all the time.
Okay, so that game in the AUS is a 6-point gap, maybe setting themselves up for a 1-point thriller at the end. It's clearly the most entertaining thing that we've got on our screens right now. Gord, there are 2 games that are going to be starting up in Canada West any second right now. I'm not sure if we're going to throw to them right away. We've got UBC Regina and Alberta, Saskatchewan coming up. We're going to have to start thinking about what games we throw off the island of 4 there, though, pretty soon.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to see how things start out there. But I'm personally, and again, kind of biased here, but I'm personally kind of interested in that UBC Regina game because Regina's coming off a huge victory for them. UBC desperately needs a win after starting 0-2 out of the gates. Their season could careen away from them quickly, especially given that it's only a 6-game season. So they're going to have to get things together here, and they really need a win in not the easiest environment to win at Mosaic Stadium in Regina there. So that's a game I'm watching with interest because it has a lot of implications for different reasons for both of those 2 teams. And then Alberta's surprised a little bit out of the gate and looks competitive this year. So it'll be interesting to see. I know they lost to Manitoba, but Saskatchewan is a team that has, they won the Canada West 3 years ago. We're right there with Calgary in the Hardy Cup final 2 years ago. So they've kind of put them into that conversation as one of the top tier teams in the Canada West. So they need to have a win here to keep in touch with Calgary, who has provided their only loss at this point in time.
By the way, nice athletic interception by Nolan Bedard there for Queens to set up this opportunity in the red zone for the Gales. And if the Gales can find the end zone here, Gord, I think I know what game we're throwing off the island first to accommodate UBC Regina or Alberta Saskatchewan, as it looks like the Gales are already well on their way to continuing their undefeated string and sewing up the title in the OUA East.
Well, you said that Acadia Bishops was the most exciting game on our screen, but I don't know about you. I find this to be quite exciting watching that team in yellow roll down the field. So
what a homer. Kingston rules the world, though, doesn't it?
You keep finding Kingstonians for the program, so
they
I don't
keep
know
finding me.
You might want to start dialing something that doesn't start with 613 next time you're looking for a new analyst.
Yeah, but so we've got Marshall Ferguson, Kingston. We've got Mike Hogan, Kingston. Even where he lives, he went up to Ajax so he could get closer to Kingston. You've spent your time in Kingston. Greg Dick at the CFL office, he's a Kingston guy. Let's see if Kingston can finish this one off.
Caught by Quamo.
That's a heck of a catch.
That is a fantastic catch. Let's pick up the audio on this, on that touchdown reception.
Quamo.
And again, let's credit the job of the Gales offensive line as we take a look at the replay here. Keenan steps back, and Quamo ran a little out and then back up and in. and he's able to get the ball over the head of the linebacker on the play, Xavier Lee Malone. And the second pass touchdown on the last 2 drives for Keenan.
And Liberatore puts through the extra point. And in 28 seconds, the Gales take
Cuomo
the
gets the
Bedard
TD reception, a very tight window that ball was placed in, but exceptionally difficult to shift back to that opposite shoulder, Gord.
Yeah, I mean, Knuckles Cuomo, that's not new for him, a very athletic guy. And this is one of the positive developments for the Queens offense, is that they're starting to make some hay with the passing game. You know, Sebastian Hansen was a very highly regarded recruit coming out of Victoria, BC, when he came out. You know, traditional powerhouse program in Mount Dugout in this neck of the woods. You know, he's starting to really blossom for them. Another guy from out west here for them, AJ Chol, is doing a really good job contributing for them as well. But Cuomo's their guy in the air game, and I mean, that just he just out muscles and makes a better play than the defensive back there. And full credit to James Keenan, put that ball in a place where his guy could go make the play on it too. And you know, Queens is looking to make a statement here today and doing so successfully.
Let's go to the final play of Bishop's Acadia in this third quarter.
And again, quick pass cutting across the middle there was the receiver Lupien, but good defense there by Acadia.
That was a wet firecracker. Trying to time these things out.
Yeah, it took too long.
Yeah, it took too long. So that's the end of that quarter. They'll be starting the fourth, still within shooting distance of each other. Montreal, Concordia. Montreal up by 11. And here comes Carlton coughing up the football. You can stick a fork in this one even before halftime, Gord.
I say, here comes Carlton. Womp, 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 womp. And I gotta say too, like we both have met him a number of times, find him to be a great guy. You start to wonder what the future is for Steve Samara at Carlton. I think they just. And I'm not within the university's administration. They may be very well pleased with the fact that they seem to be relatively competitive every year, but they have just not been able to elevate themselves the way that we'd been kind of waiting for over the past 2-3 seasons. And this is unfortunately just another rough afternoon for them. You know, it was for a number of seasons when they started back up that they kind of had Queens' number a little bit, and now this year Queens has flipped the script. And you want to talk about Queens' outlook in the future here? They've got a an away date at Ottawa, to finish up. They've also got a bye left, so they've only got the one game left. They look like they'll roll into the playoffs at worst with one loss, and probably looking pretty good to go in undefeated. And that gives them a leg right into the OUA finals. So really good news for the Kingston faithful there behind the Queens guys. But on the other side, Carlton, they're going to have to get back to the drawing board pretty quickly here.
Well, looked like a flicker of life there for Manitoba on their home field. Queens looking to finish things off here in the red zone against Carlton. Let's go back over to the Manitoba-Calgary game and pick up some sound from that one, shall we?
As you mentioned, John, by Jackson Tuchinski with his first major of the day. And the Manitoba Bisons swing momentum here on the Stephen Conway interception. 2 plays later, they turn it into 6, and it is a one-possession football game with 13 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, we got ourselves a football game. Boy, that Stefan Conway, we'll revisit that. I think that might be our turning point of the game if we see the Bison stop.
A quick switch over to Carlton and Queens.
And Liberatore puts through the 12-yard field goal. And so in the span of a little over a minute, the Gales have turned 14-0 into 20.
Back Briones. And it's Gregoire. He's going to be into the end zone. He had the real estate. He had the opening. And Bishops has put it into the end zone and are a convert away from taking the lead.
I'd like to tell you how they blocked that corner. Let's see if we can see it. 77's there. He blocks it down in. Acadia had nobody to come. The halfback's too late because he's in the end zone. It really shocks me that they got the corner that easy.
And look you just saw it there for a minute. McGriskin knew it was a couple of yards from the end zone, and McGriskin already saw the opening, had his arms up, signaling touchdown. He knew that Gregoire had the open pass and the open lane. He got hit toward the goal line, but Gregoire, he won't find many easier than that. And for one of the best rushers in the league who came into this game with no touchdowns, he scored 2 very big ones today. And the convert is good. And wow, goodness me, John, Bishop's in the lead.
They're in the lead, but look out. This is just going to light up Acadia, and they're capable of doing that. They had that long drive that took most of the third.
So Louis-Philippe Gregoire is the backbone of this Bishop's offense. He's had 2 consecutive 100-yard games in a row. Looks like he's ready to add to it here. Finds the end zone for Bishop's, really in what is our game of the day so far. Queens up on Carlton in commanding fashion. We're going to probably bail out of that game when that 35.7 ticks off and they go to halftime to pick up another Canada West game. It's been a while since we checked in on Montreal Concordia. Let's go over there and pick up the sound.
Does. Complete. Jared Tate. And it will be down. It'll be a third down. It will be third down. Zach Fillon on the tackle. And Justin Langlais, pardon me, was on the catch. So it'll be a 3-and-out, and they will punt it away with less than 5 minutes to go.
Good pursuit on this one. We saw a lot of maroon jerseys around the ball.
So third down and about 17 yards. Will be punted away. Martin Blais will be waiting for the return. Good job defensively by Concordia, getting 2 3-and-outs. Now it's just the offense that will need to get fired up and get some points in. Alain Panverne waits for a snap, gets it. Almost blocked, but it will be caught, and Martin Blais will be grounded, but the 5 yards were not respected there. Immediately the flag given, so it'll be bonus yards for Concordia.
That was a great job by the return on this one, knowing the situation he was in. So he realized it and analyzed that the cover guy was within the radius, so he just went for it.
So it will be first down. So let's look at the replay on the kick and talk to me a bit about the play by Martin Blais.
So there was a lot of pressure coming down from the middle. And overall, just a great outcome for the special team.
So Concordia will start at their 51-yard line, and it will be first down for Concordia. Olivier Roy waits for a snap, Olivier Morancy behind him. 3 receivers to his right, 2 to his left. Waits for the snap, gets it. Run option will be caught by Jalen Greaves for about 7 yards. And Concordia is now in Montreal territory, but it is second down, and it'll be second down and 3.
That was a good catch in traffic.
So second down and 3. Olivier Roy will wait for the snap. 2 receivers to the left side, 3 to the right. Olivier Morancy will be behind Olivier Roy. Let's see what they decide to do. Olivier Roy waits for the snap. Gets it. Will go for the QB draw. Tries to find a hole, but immediately hit.
Well, Gory, we're going to have to make a decision on who's going to replace that Carlton-Queens game. We got 2 Canada West games to choose from. We've got Alberta at Saskatchewan. The first game in Saskatoon in 700 days or something like that. The next one is the Regina UBC game. I have interest in both of them. And we're going to see them both at some point in time this afternoon. But which one is the go-to one first?
You know what? Let's start with Alberta, Saskatchewan, and see what that crowd looks like over in the Toon.
That is an excellent idea. And you know what I want to do right now is I want to hear what that game sounds like in Atlantic, Canada with Acadia and Bishops. Let's head back over there.
So face mask against Acadia. Wow. As you said, now repeat what you said, they're shooting themselves in the foot on both sides of the ball.
Well, they are racking up the penalties, but I would say as well, they must be close to 70 or 80 yards in penalties. That one going for 15. 1st and 10 from Bishops on the Acadia side of the field at the 35. 10 penalties for 96 yards, John. You just can't have that. And that pass going over everybody is Massey, the only receiver in the area for Bishops. But you know that, and you were a coach in this league, how frustrating are the penalties when they start to rack up.
Last play in, you had to burn a timeout. Here you could have taken a timeout after this play and still had a chance for one more offensive play.
But they're middle of the field. Liberatore will set up his kicking tee at the Carlton 19. The clock is running. This will indeed, barring a penalty, be the last play of the first half. Lacandro is the holder. And the kick is good. And that'll do it for the first half. A disastrous last minute 57 for Carlton. They turn it over 3 times, and they give up 13 points. It's 27-0 at halftime for the Queens Gales.
Laurier again finds a hole again, pushes through, and about 7 yards there gained. So it'll be a second down.
But they can't get it to him. They dump it off short instead.
Well, they ran a center screen. I love the play. Didn't get the key blocks they needed, but watch. The Acadia players allowed to come through now. That's good. So you got time. You got them set up. Here it is, and just needed that block on number 90, and he would have given the running back some choices where to go. So we'll see whether they're going to go a field goal. I saw him practicing. It came out, and there you see McCriskin limping off the field.
Bit of a hobble there.
See if he comes back in. Well, it looks like they're going to punt the ball away and look for field position rather than points.
So 11:30 left to play in this fourth quarter. 15-14, Bishops leading.
1 point game, you know, they want to really go after the fact that they can get them pinned deep, maybe even pick up a point if they kick it out of the end zone, but we'll just see what happens here.
Well, I think this decision might have been made a little easier for Bishops given the fact that the momentum seems to be with Bishops right now. I think they feel very comfortable making that decision. And just in front of us here on the Bishop sideline, we can see McGriskin now has a definite limp, and he's going down. Looks like he's going to get a closer look from the athletic therapist and the training staff of Bishop. So we'll keep an eye on that. And there we see warming up on the sideline is Liam Kennedy, 6'3", out of Nepean, Ontario. So we'll keep a close eye on McGriskin.
This is a big drive for Acadia. Likewise, big defensive stand here for Bishops.
Acadia deep in their own end zone on their 16-yard line as they scrimmage 1st and 10. Receivers in motion on both sides. Patterson looks one way, then comes back to the right and finds the receiver over there. That was Perry hauling it in.
Well, a great call. Now, something happens on defense here. The corner didn't fall back far enough, etc. I don't know what they had on, but it looks like a zone, and he's got all the way to the sidelines, and that doesn't happen.
So Perry picks up 13 on the reception. So they'll take it 1st and 10.
Lots of time in the clock. They don't have to rush things. They can still use Cole.
Nope, will go by himself. We'll run a couple more yards, and we'll be stopped at about the 48-yard line. It'll be second down and about 5 yards.
The key read on this one is the defensive end from the left side of Olivier. If he's getting caught being bite on a running back, this is when Olivier's keeping it and go for the run.
With 23 seconds and counting left in this third quarter. Probably 2 plays left on in this drive. Second down and 5 for Concordia. Ejiwa waits for the snap. Gets it. We'll give it to Dwante Morgan. Dwante Morgan finds a hole. Can he punch it? I believe he can. We will see where they spot him. Time does expire, but I do believe they'll get one more play. Where will they spot the ball is the question. From the spot, it does look like a first down, and it is a first down. First down, Concordia. So let's look at the run here, Kizito, from Dwante Morgan.
Physical run by Dwante. We see the opening gap from on the left hand side.
So Concordia will have one more play before the end of this third quarter. First down. First down, Concordia. Idiawa waits for the snap. Dwante Morgan behind him. Gets the snap. Looks to his right. Tries to go deep. Can he find Greaves? He does. Greaves still on his feet, still trying to go, and will be stopped at a 19-yard line. And that's how the third quarter will end. Jalen Greaves stopped at the 19-yard line, and Concordia will be in Montreal red zone. In the Montreal red zone, once the fourth quarter will begin.
It was a good scenario that they were looking for, a man-to-man situation with Jalen Greaves on a hash route.
As we look at the replay here, Casino, keep going.
Yeah, so as we can see Jalen Greaves having an easy free release and having a man-to-man situation with no safety help. This is a gamble that Olivier will take every time.
And with
they might go for 2 here to tie it up, but nonetheless, they'll think about it for sure. They're going to have a discussion here as a coaching staff and what they're doing, and it looks like they're going to be going for 2. But how about Macho? Like I said, when in doubt, throw number 18 the ball, and he's going to do some great things. They had him wide open in the flats there. Nobody's covering him. Might as well. Hey, Macho, put 6 on the board for the Bisons. And have a little dance.
That is your textbook Macho Bakru post touchdown celly there.
Love it.
And yeah, he just scraped wide open there on the short side, on the wide side.
But wants to kind of stop it short, so that's always a good spot to do a fake. So,
well, Oldenburg this time will take the knee 2 yards deep in the end zone, and maybe was that procedure penalty an on-purpose play to allow you to put you.
You could be seeing something on the short side here for the Bisons. And it looks like
there's a penalty on the play as that one is incomplete. Manitoba from their own 5 on the 2-point convert.
It might have been offside on the slot backs here, crossing the line of scrimmage there. So it doesn't look like they're going to be converting on the 2-point conversion. This is going to go against the Bisons as an offside from one of the slots. Looks like Gavin Cobb was the one that went offside. He was setting up his man and kind of forgot the count.
So Bisons can't cash on that 2-point convert, but it is now a 2-point game, 20-18 here, and Jackson Tuchinski making it happen on the drive with his legs as we get a replay here of the touchdown to the 5th-year Macho Bakru.
Doing his dance.
Doing his thing and really making up for some tough drops in that first half.
That's true. It took him a while to get into this game. He had 2 key drops on second down, but he sure makes up for it on this one.
Gord, this is crazy good. This is crazy good. This is why we put this together. There's points flying all over the place. There's a comeback going on in Manitoba. Adam Marchant, we just missed it off the first play. One of these days we'll get replays going here. Very first play of the game, a 68-yard touchdown run. That's why there was 7 up on the board for Saskatchewan. This is a heavyweight prize fight between lightweights in the AUS. They're punching well beyond their weight, and Concordia is on the move right now. This is why we do this.
Coming at us hot and heavy, and I love that the Bisons have made this a game in Winnipeg. We thought that Calgary looked like they were going to run away with it, and the counterpunch from the Bisons. Remember we were talking about Mcmaster earlier, how they needed a counterpunch out of the half, and they just didn't get it. The Bisons certainly have, and now we got ourselves a ball game there. Acadia Bishops just keeps coming at you. Still a 1-point game deep into the fourth quarter there, and now it looks like Concordia is having to settle for a field goal, which is really not what they need right now, in my opinion. Down 11, but it is what it is. So they'll take the points while they can and hope that they can get the ball back here. I don't know. It looks like they're still in the third quarter, so there's plenty of time left for Concordia here. And then Saskatchewan, I mean, how about Adam Macker? Like we always tend to talk about the passing game first and foremost in Canadian ball, but I mean, Adam Macker is worth the price of admission pretty much every week for the University of Saskatchewan, and off to his old tricks to start this one in Saskatoon.
Now, remember this about Concordia. I believe it was in the Shaughnessy Cup. They were down by 8. They made a touchdown and a 2-point conversion on the final play of the game to force it to overtime and won on a field goal in OT. So that was a result of a fumble by McGill. So 8 points. They've been through this drill before. So
I was going to say, not just 8 points. They came back from 22 down in that fourth quarter.
True.
So they have
in
been,
8 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, so they are the comeback kids in the RSDQ so far this season. But that being said, Montreal probably a little bit of a stiffer test to make up that gap than McGill would be. So interesting to see. I mean, if Concordia would pull this off, that would be a huge watershed moment for this program. And also, like I said, sets them up well for playoffs, right? If they are able to pull this off, Montreal appears to be the preferable matchup for them because Laval has beat them handily both times. Montreal only beat them by or I should say Concordia actually beat Montreal, I believe, the first time these two teams played. And now we've got another tight one here. So would be very, very positive news for Concordia if they were able to get back in this one.
Let's pick up the sound in Saskatchewan right now.
Difficult. So good job by the U of A. Number 13 doing a great job in coverage there, Jake Taylor. Just making sure he stays on Clausen as he works his way to the out. Those outs are easy to complete in man-to-man coverage a lot of times because of the way the defense plays and gives a little bit of space. So good job by U of A.
Second down for Saskatchewan and goal. Iwan Chena, the lone back in the backfield. 3 receivers go to the wide side of the set. Nias looks near side into the end zone. Touchdown, Saskatchewan. Sam Baker out of Esterhazy, the touchdown maker, pulls it in. And Saskatchewan answer with a touchdown in the red zone.
Yeah, good job by Baker. It looks like him and the DB got caught up a little bit there, and the DB had fallen down, and then he was able to make the corner and then grab the ball. So good job by Nias putting that ball in a great spot, and then Baker just grabbing it out of the air.
Sam Baker's second touchdown reception of the season. Of course, he was a draft pick of the Toronto Argonauts back in 2020, and that one he made it look easy with a little pitch and catch with his quarterback as the point after from Soley sails through the uprights, and Saskatchewan build upon their lead.
Yeah, great job by the Huskies getting Clausen in, getting Baker into the game. Mackert's been running strong. Mason Nias is doing a great job getting the ball downfield. So good work by the Husky offense, really getting things rolling, and good play calling on the Husky side, I think. U of A is doing a good job to try and compact the line to stop Mackert, and that's what's opening up these throws down the field.
And all kinds of time there for Mason Nias as we see.
He is the most fearless football player you will ever meet.
Look at on this one cut.
Oh, he loses his shoe.
Loses his shoe, and he keeps on running. That doesn't stop this. Number 29, Michael Rashad. Great play.
The former Grant Park Pirate won the program's first championship at the Division II level in 2011. I was on that team with Mike. It was a very strong season, 6-1 that year. The next year, they went back to the championship. Mike Rashad, actually, I think he's one of the only players in the history of the Winnipeg High School Football League to be named Player of the Year. 2 years in a row is another big game here for the Bisons. Macho Bakru making his presence felt in the fourth quarter.
Now this is a big man play from Jackson Tuchinski, standing in the pocket, taking a lick here. He's got his hands on his knees. That does not feel good, but what a play. Look at this. He stands in the pocket. He can recognizes the blitz. He sees it. He's going to take a little bit of a punishment. And he finds Macho Bakro right over the middle.
Bison's 1st and 10 at the Calgary 10-yard line. Tuchinski with the handoff. Not much there on that one. The Dinos came up pretty well and contained. Daniel Flanagan in on that one.
That's good. Hey, they're staying conservative here. They're keeping it on the ground. They want to come out of this drive with at least 3 points to give them the lead for the first time today. So I wouldn't be surprised, if they do put this one in the air. It's not the worst thing, but Jackson just needs to make sure that it's a sure throw or it's incomplete. Do not take a sack here. They're going to keep it on the ground.
There's going to be a face masking penalty, I believe, or there was definitely a hand up in the business of Mike Rashad on that one, which might have been a face mask. We'll see it on the replay here.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mike. It did look like he was pulled back by the face mask. Here we go. Like I said, they're going to keep it on the ground here just to ensure that. Oh, yeah, that's definitely face mask penalty. But they kept it on the ground here. Like I said, they just want to come out with at least 3 points to give them the lead.
16 penalties for 110 yards now for the Dinos on that face mask. And great push, by the way, by the Bison's offensive line there. Center Mateo Vaccaro and left guard Ryder Klazowski, the numerous time national champ with the Saskatoon Hilltops, pushing back their man there for that on that run play for the Bisons. First and goal from the 1.
Here's the heavy set. We called this Titan back in the day. You tighten their splits, and there's some big boys here to move this line. Oh,
off tackle. There's a flag on the play, and this one is probably going to come back. We'll wait to see as Braden Stubbs gets into the end zone.
Stubbs walked into the end zone there. That was some good blocking up front, but it looks like that might be coming back here. Number 77.
And it's Mark Rajos who is in for that Titan package. Unfortunately taking the penalty here. Another product of the Vincent Massey Trojans on that 2018 Anavets Bowl team with Tuchinski and Stubbs and a lot of the guys that you see in that starting offense. And that one's tough.
Yeah, and Rawhouse is a product of an alumni, Jason Rawhouse, where they affectionately call him Bam Bam. I believe there's some good Bison blood in that family. And boy, is he a big boy coming in for that Titan set. But here comes the Bisons, starting at about the 11-yard line here.
Rawhouse remains in at right guard as Tuchinski back to pass and finds Macho Bakru once again. Tackled right away on the play.
He's going to that drag again. Felt a little bit of the pressure, and you could always rely on that drag coming over the middle, which it was Kai Madsen the last time running this, but now it's Macho Bakru, who does come down with the football and gets him a little closer to the end zone. I believe the Bisons would be taking a timeout here to be discussing the next play. It's a big play here, Mike.
It definitely is. Jacob Biggs made the tackle there, hip on hip there on Macho Bakru. Biggs, the conference leader coming into this game with 4 pass breakups, and one of the veterans in that secondary has had a really good game here, limiting Tuchinski to 126 yards through the air for this Dinos pass defense that leads the conference and is 8th in the nation in that regard. But yes, John, as you mentioned, this is easily the biggest play of the football game here. Manitoba can take their first lead of the game with a field goal, but ideally would like to get a little bit of breathing room with a touchdown. And while we're on the subject matter, John, I mean, these two teams...
Score in the Regina UBC game. Donnelly found Riley Boersma down the left side for a 31-yard touchdown. So the Regina Rams are up early on the UBC Thunderbirds. Now let's go back to the broadcast out of Winnipeg with Manitoba knocking on the door.
Tuchinski on second down, and that one got John Mackey in.
I'll tell you what, that conversation that they had on the sideline there, they were given the rules here of what Tuchinski should be doing and what he's looking for, and he tries to fit this one in on a play that I recognize this play as Bo. This is a quick hitter from a slant. He just puts it on the outside pocket, and that was tight. I was worried that Calgary would have come up with a pick there, but no, it looks like the Bisons will come out with 3 here as they line up for the field goal.
Spectacular coverage by Liam Reed on that play. He's had himself one heck of a day. Bit of a low snap there, but Sabrin fields it and makes good on that that field goal.
And the Bisons take the lead for the first time today. So we've really seen the momentum shift in the fourth quarter. The Bisons are home.
Okay, Gord, we're getting just outside of the 3-minute warning with a 1-point game in Winnipeg. The Saskatchewan Huskies are creating some mayhem against Alberta. We got a 1-point game inside 3 minutes with Acadia and Bishops. You know, a little bit about the AUS here before we go to the sound up here. Like, the one thing about the AUS, always ultra competitive from the top to the bottom.
Yeah, it is. And the top this year appears to be St. FX, who's sitting at a 3-0 record on a bye this weekend. But I mean, this is why Bishop's joined this conference, right? That they're akin to the other teams in that sort of Maple League, as they call themselves, and they fit better in this conference than they did in the RCQ. The only exception being the geography, but us as West Coasters take a look at East Coast geography and we're like, well, that's not far, right? That's not far at all. That's not even to Kelowna. But Bishop's fits in very well as an institution in this conference, as you're seeing evidence of today, and it's always fun watching AUS football. I mean, unfortunately, the bubble tends to burst when we get to national semifinal week every year, but it's fun football. It's people that care. Oh,
check this out! Check this out! Bishop's doing some damage. Let's go to the sound of this, Gord.
Yeah.
Gregoire salutes the Bishop sideline, and what a game 23 was his longest. That may be
what a
now
run.
His
They
longest.
pull backside lineman. He does a great job, and here you get downfield blocking as well, and he's through. Great job bringing him down by number 10, Emmanuel Beals, because he could have been in the end zone.
Louis-Philippe Gregoire.
Now you need to use all your time on every down.
So
Acadia needs to think about timeouts.
Huge run by Gregoire. Broken play. McGriskin has to keep it. Wisely so. It's almost like he looked to hand it off to somebody, nobody there, and he just had to wrap his arms around it and made the right call by just protecting the ball.
Wow, what a time. He either turned the wrong way or the running back went the wrong side.
So McGriskin, you see him there in the middle of your screen, looks to the sideline, getting the calls.
They might want to take a timeout themselves, let the clock run down to 1 and timeout. We'll see what they choose.
And it's interesting, it looks like Liam Kennedy, a backup quarterback, is calling the plays into McGriskin. 2nd and 10, McGriskin. And again, little confusion. I don't know if Bishops is 100% sure what they want to run. And McGriskin's going to come over to the sideline and talk
they called
it
a
over.
timeout, so there's no penalty. They ran out of time, but the coach was with the sideline official telling them when they wanted the timeout. So there wasn't so much confusion as they wanted to run the clock down.
Okay, well, we got a pause here in the AUS game. Let's go to a 4-box. Let's talk about all 4 of what's going on here right now, Gord. We got Montreal looking like they're ready to close in on a victory in Concordia, crosstown rivals. They're just inside the red zone right now. Manitoba's got the ball back, up by 1 against Calgary, and they are moving the ball. And then we've got this Bishop's game against Acadia. Also, Bishop's up by 1, and that big run by Gregoire has put them into the driver's seat. Pick one, and let's start building off of it.
Well, this Montreal Concordia game, unfortunately, this is why I might have considered keeping the offense on the field last time out on offense for Concordia. You have the potential for a bigger momentum shift if you're able to get into the end zone. That's the deepest they've been any time in the second half, at least from what I've seen. I would have been inclined to maybe try and take advantage of that more so than kicking the field goal. But it's a defensible call either way. It's just it did not turn out particularly well for Concordia, as it looks like here. We don't have a game clock on the ticker there, so I'm not sure exactly how much time is left in that one. But Montreal looks like they're in great position for at least 3 here to make it a 2-score game again, and time is starting to run out for Concordia. With the Bishop's offense, what I was going to say before we went to the broadcast there is that running game has been the driver of Bishop's offense this season, and they've been very successful with that this afternoon. You always love it if you can make hay on the ground without having to do the more difficult mechanic in a lot of cases of trying to pick teams apart via the air. So it does look like I'm having a hard time seeing it on my screen right now, but it does look like Bishop's is lined up in punt formation. So Acadia has held here, and it remains a 1-point game. But I think our game of the week it may be being taken over by that Manitoba-Calgary affair, as Manitoba looks like they're in the driver's seat now. And I'll point out while I'm talking, it looks like Saskatchewan scored again. Jim, I think it might be time to switch that game over to the UBC Regina one.
Yeah, it's becoming one of those hometown blowouts. certainly the University of Alberta, in their history over the last 20 years, has not found those bus trips to Saskatoon to be very fruitful. And that's an easy one right there by the University of Saskatchewan. We may want to guess that one for UBC Saskatchewan. Last score that I had on that one, it was 7-0 for Saskatchewan. Regina, rather. Let's go back to the AUS game right now, just for the big game. And let's keep an eye on this because there's 1:28 remaining, and it's 1st and 10, Acadia. Let's go to sound up on this.
Going deep. Can they get there? Oh, goodness me. Great effort. Long ball, but just not quite there for the intended receiver, Scott Perry.
Have a look at the wide look.
Patterson knew where he was going. He had the right idea. He knew where he wanted to go. .123, clock watching all the way around. 2nd and 10 from the Acadia 20. Patterson drops back a couple of paces, dumps it off. And here is that man, Cole Estabrooks.
And he'll get a first down out of this. They weren't really prepared. They were willing to give up that underneath, which is one thing you can do. Now, Acadia may have to call a timeout here or get ready to go as soon as the whistle goes. And good job here picking up the first down.
Down to 1:16, 1:15. Clock is running. First down. Patterson looks over here. Kelly has the reception, takes the big hit, but holds on to the ball.
Again,
Perry.
Timeout. The clock's going to start as soon as the referee blows his whistle.
That was Scott Perry on the reception. Looks to be holding his hip a little bit after taking the big hit right there. Good clean hit, though, from number 21, Felix Cossette. Hand off to Estabrooks. He's met quickly and taken down.
He's short of the first down.
Here's a look at it here.
Good job there, coming in off the edge. Number 26 for Bishops, Keegan Hughes.
So we're in 3rd down territory. Quarterback sneak, John, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
3rd and short. Patterson dives over the pile. Don't know if he got there. I'd say we're going to see a measurement. And do we have a flag as well?
We have a flag, and it looks like they're calling an offside, but against who?
Bishops, of course, pointed toward the Acadia side of the field.
Well, they're saying they didn't get the first down, but I see the flag. I don't see them making the call. Here it is.
It's on Bishops.
Here it is.
Offside. Bishops number 42. 5-yard penalty. First down.
So he lined up offside, obviously.
Out of the corner of my eye, I caught one of the Bishops players throwing his head back and his arms up, which led me to think that
He really stepped up there and created a hole for Braden Stubbs to get Skinny through, but he didn't really need to get Skinny because he could have driven a Mack truck through there.
That's right.
First down for the Bisons, and at this point in the game, 57 seconds left. Pretty much can ice it here, really. As Stubbs takes it off tackle, breaks away from one defender, and he's in for the touchdown, Stubbsy.
Right, and here they've got 2-3 wrapped up. So they've emptied out 1 or 2 of their backers.
And it's Dallaire making the catch, 82, not 89.
So now you see the blitz is on, and good catch, good throw. So 40, they've got 48 seconds left. At this time, it would be probably about
And they finish it off with 6 on the board and really secures this win here for the Manitoba Bisons.
Still 44 seconds on the clock. Convert pending. The Dinos with an opportunity to potentially tie the game with a 2-point convert.
Sorry, I think I might have spoken a little bit earlier there. I got to remember the Hardy or the semifinal. We could be in for another big finish here. They're up by 8 points now. So here's 44 seconds left on the board. I shouldn't have called that out there. There's a nice shot of Jackson Tuchinski. He's looking good in that quarterback spot.
And how about the run game from the Manitoba Bisons in the second half and that physical offensive line? And Ryder Klosowski, I would consider him the leader of that group. He's a guy that played 5 years with the Saskatchewan Hilltops.
Really interesting here for both teams.
1st and 10 from the Bishops' 36-yard line. Game on the line, and there's movement. Bishops is saying it's Acadia.
It is Acadia moved. Number 67, unfortunately, John Grieve. He stepped back off the line. Just makes it a little bit tougher.
And
watch the left side of your screen there.
Should see the movement right here.
Now they're getting set. There's Grieve on the end. There it is there.
Yeah, that was pretty obvious for sure. 47.7 left.
Now, if you're a pass defender, linebacker, halfbacks, free safety, you have got to be on your toes. You've got to try and get it in your drop so that you can see the quarterback and anybody else that comes into your zone, or if they're playing a man, be with your man.
Interesting, a moment ago, the crowd started to really cheer, and Matthew Gledhill, the receiver right there just in the middle of your frame, was actually looking up toward the stands and asking the crowd to quiet down. And then when the Bishop sideline saw that, the Bishop sideline players on the sideline turned to the crowd and said, no, let's go, get the noise up. Obviously on offense, you want to be able to, when you're the home team, you want to be able to hear the call and know what's going on. But that was an interesting little sequence there. Clock is running, 43 seconds to play.
Watch Gledhill here.
Patterson, quick drop back, tucks it on. He's going to run with it. He gets past one tackler. Now he's into a bunch of people right around the 35-yard line, and then it's finally whistled down.
I like this play. I really do, but I'd like to see him roll. Right now he's got straight up. He does a good job of picking up those yards. Now they're looking at another 5 yards anyways.
As that one's broken up, but you know what? Calgary's always got a shot when you have those sorts of weapons there, as we are also keeping an eye on Bishop's Acadia.
Yeah, Bishop's Acadia coming down to an interesting finale there. Interesting interaction between the Acadia fans and the players on the field. It was really funny watching the Bishop sideline getting some noise going. I had to double check. I was like, this is in Wolfville, right? and it is. So maybe pay a little more attention there, Acadia fans.
That's why we're splitting between 4 screens here. The 2 ones on your left side are the most important. As Calgary continues to march, they're down to the 39 with 22 seconds left.
This is the karma that you might get if you're Manitoba's broadcast team for declaring this one over when they made it an 8-point game. They caught themselves too, but yeah, not over yet, guys.
Yeah, on that Manitoba-Calgary game, it is a hometown broadcast crew, unlike the A crew that they have on Saskatchewan-Calgary. So you're going to get a little bit of homerism on some of these. You probably sampled some of it on the Montreal-Concordia game, and that one's well in hand for Montreal at this stage, but you never want to count out the Cardiac kids in Concordia.
Yeah, they better get going quickly, though, because it does look like they're in decent field position right now, but they must be running low on time again. I don't have a clock on that particular game, but they've been in the fourth quarter for a good few minutes now. So, yeah, it's just about midnight for the Concordia guys. As Alberta looks like they've just come up with an interception, which they desperately need at this point in time if they're going to try and claw their way back into this one, because Saskatchewan had the ball back, threatening to turn this into a laugher. So big play for the Golden Bears. Hopefully they can find a way to make this one interesting.
Nope, sorry, coach took a timeout. Yep. Calgary took a timeout here.
20 at the top left corner of your screen with Calgary on the march. They need a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to tie.
Yeah, and they've been stalling on offense for a good chunk of the second half here, right? They were at 17 at the half, so they've only scored 3 here in the second half. They really need to get going here.
You know, the other thing too here is this Bishop's Acadia game. Could we see a return kick out of the end zone? Could we see that scenario? Could that just finish this this whole day off in a fantastic fashion for us.
Yeah, the old punt out play.
Yeah, let's go over here now. We've got a field goal attempt with 4.8 seconds remaining. Let's go to the sound.
Exactly where you're going to throw it. So Nias may need to tailor that a little bit.
Well, frustration evident after he threw that pass. He didn't like it. As back to pass, Horning, far side. That's for Rosary, complete. He'll get it to the 50-yard line and then near the...
Well, how much pressure is this young man feeling? Third-year player out of Moncton, New Brunswick, Ben George. He plays defense, but now he ain't thinking about defense. It's all about offense, John.
Well, I can tell you one person who's a little more nervous than he is because he's looking cool, and that's his mom, Jennifer, whom I taught in middle school in Sackville, New Brunswick, and I know she's either here or listening to the game, and she wants, as we all would, our son to do well and make that field goal to win this game.
There's no way you're old enough to have taught his mother in middle school, John. Come on, telling tales.
I am not.
Well, we didn't know what to expect when we came into this game. We knew it was going to be a tight, hardly...
Before we get to Ben George's field goal attempt for Acadia, have to note Manitoba remains undefeated. They are the top team to beat in Canada West. They are in first place at 3-0. Now, let's go back to Bishop's Acadia.
About a 41.5-yard field goal. There's George. It's up, it's away, and it's wide. And running it out of the end zone and claiming the victory are the Bishop's Gators. They run on the field in celebration. They come down from Quebec, they fly into Halifax, they get a bus to the Valley, and they come away with a hard-fought 15-14 victory. Acadia crushed as they fall to 1-3. Bishop's now 2-2, and they are celebrating.
Well, it's heartbreak. There's no doubt about that. On one side, the celebration. On the other side, the heartbreak. But I think everyone will agree that in the end, the total difference between these two teams was some improperly timed penalties that really hurt Acadia and did not allow them to do a lot of things that they wanted to do or continue what they were doing.
And you see the celebration by Bishops, and the opposite side of the coin is the dejection and the heartbreak for the Acadia Axemen. As you said, John, some mistimed penalties hurt them, and a field goal try at the end just wasn't there. We're going to wrap it up in just a few minutes. We're going to step aside and take a break. Bishops hangs on for the 1-point win. We'll be back.
So, Gord, we didn't get the return kick out of the end zone, but we did get a thrilling finish in, I'm going to call that the game of the weekend so far. Bishops and Acadia, who knew? And for Bishops, that propels them up to 2-2 on the season. Acadia falls to 1-4, and the critical thing for Acadia was having that game stripped away from them because of an academically ineligible player. That really puts them behind the 8 ball this year.
Yeah, it does. And one of the unfortunate realities of U Sports football is that that's something that seems to rear its ugly head pretty much every season for a couple of different teams and really puts a wrench in the standings. That's a little bit of a disappointing result for Acadia, and the season kind of has been on the whole at this point in time. It's tough to bounce back from losing a game that you thought you won and then to be told that you lost. But I got to say, this is one of the reasons why I'm loving this football day in Canada. Good time to check in with our buddies out east and hear some Blue Nosers call that a hard-fought victory by the Bishop's Gators. So I enjoy listening to that and seeing what's going on the far side of the country.
You could actually understand, though, when you see the way that game played out, why some of the people in the AUS will have a chip on their shoulder, because they see the entertainment value that exists in their games. Not every game is as entertaining as that. I've sat through a couple of long and winding ones with Mount A so far this year that turned out to be manufactured victories. But when you have that level of entertainment, when you have that energy in the stands, when you have that buy-in, it has a value to it. It has a value to the school and it has a value to the community.
And it has a value to prospective players, too. I mean, that was the selling point when I was coming out of high school 15 years ago. Not quite 15 years ago. I shouldn't age myself quite that much. But it was one of the selling points then was, it's a competitive conference. You have a chance to win every year. The games are great. People care. The rivalries run deep. Bishops is the relative newcomer to the conference, but they keep battling these guys out year in, year out. And those rivalries will start to develop too, because I bet this one will stick with Acadia for a while. So, it's a very close-knit conference. And the atmosphere is great, right? Like, you can hear it when you're sounding up that broadcast. Like, there are stands full of people. They're making noise. They're ringing cowbells. They're doing everything they can, and the game's important to them. So, let's give credit where credit's due.
And you want to give credit where credit's due. We brought the Queens Carlton game back again, man. What a total domination on both sides of the football for the Queens Gales. If there was ever any question about the OUA East being the least, at least that team at the top of that conference looks like it's ready to play and will be a player in the OUA playoffs as we move forward.
Absolutely. This is the cliche statement game for Queens. And I mean, I think we may have thrown that phrase around about their victory over Guelph last week, but this is an emphatic looking scoreline so far for the Gales. And I'm just sorry, I'm just getting a little distracted by the Alberta goal line plunge here. I'm waiting for the signal here to see, but if Alberta can get into the end zone, now we might start to have something interesting going on there, as Queens looks like they've come up with another turnover in Kingston. So lots going on. Sorry, Jim, I'm having a tough time keeping up as I talk on the fly here.
That's okay. One thing we should keep up on is that Montreal Concordia 31-19 is now a final, and that one is in the books. So it certainly looks like Concordia is destined for third place and destined to play a playoff game on the road against either Laval or Montreal. Let's take a look now as we go to Saskatchewan and Alberta.
Again, no signal from the officials.
Early guess on that flag would probably be the Huskies either lined up offside or jumped the gun a bit based on where the flag is. But
well, no signal. The officials say that they kept him out, they being the Huskies. The Huskies are sprinting off the field, but there is a flag down, and they stop in their tracks as they hear about the flag.
Good job by the Huskies front, just getting push. Like I said earlier,
let's stay on the sound from this
in
game.
CFL football, you have to give that yard, but it's never given that you'll get that yard with the ball. So great job by the Huskies getting some push and then grabbing and pulling backwards. So
yes, it's going to be an offside Saskatchewan. Yeah. So a fourth crack now from the goal line for Alberta.
So at some point you pull it out here and the quarterback just kind of runs around the edge, but we'll see. Okay, good. That's good. Anytime a team goes shotgun on the goal line is concerning.
Horning again. This time he's on his tiptoes and he'll get in.
Gets it in.
Luke Horning had to find some extra push at the end, but he got up on his tiptoes and just followed the surge from the offensive line. And this time he rides it into the end zone for Alberta to find some momentum. Big play for the freshman quarterback.
Yeah, great job by U of A. Just, do what it takes to get it in already. So little PSA here. Please never go in shotgun at the 1 yard line. Ever, ever, ever. Please, always, never, ever do that. Please.
And what a great look. As you can see, it looked like the initial surge may have even broken the goal line, but the second effort where he backs in gets him in there, and the young quarterback gets a major for his team with the point after to come.
Yeah, that's big for U of A. You got to punch that in. If you can't punch that in, then the confidence is going to start to waver a little bit, I think. So,
paraphrase Jerry Seinfeld, what's the deal with the UBC Thunderbirds, Gord? They're getting it rolled out to them again for another game. They're down 16-0 in Regina. There's a few positions of promise on this team, but right now they just do not have it together.
No, they don't. And it's a very young roster at UBC. But yeah, it's hard to figure out what is quite going wrong with them. I know that they are really high on their young quarterback, the Texas kid, Rooker. But when we saw them 2 years ago, we saw Gable Alvarez really starting to get it together for them in the second half of the season. I was a little surprised that they went with Rooker right out of the gate. And like I said, I know that they like him a lot, but they haven't necessarily produced a lot on offense so far this year. So it'll be interesting to see what kinds of changes they might have up their sleeves there. But I know for me personally, as a dude that's very into the aesthetics of football, I can't help but notice that UBC's downturn seemed to coincide with switching to these weird Navy-inspired helmets that they're wearing now that I happen to find much less of a good look than what they had previously.
The UBC Thunderbirds win championships in royal blue. They become irrelevant in navy blue. That's the history of this operation. Why they switch back from the royal is beyond me. But right now, I'm not sure if the tone of blue that they're wearing really affects what they're doing. It just kind of matches up to some bad eras right now. Let's pick up the sound in Regina to see where we're at on
the best angle from where our booth is in relation to where they are. It almost looked like the Rams line on the right side of their line might have been offside and lined up offside. We'll get the call here in a second.
Illegal procedure, UBC, 5-yard penalty, third down repeated.
And give us the number, but it's against the Thunderbirds, so that'll back them up. Rooker will stay out, but he's also the punter this afternoon, so leaves you with some options, but it looks like the offense will stay on the field here.
We'll look at it right here. It's the bottom of your screen. Oh, that's a tough call. It looked to me like there wasn't a lot of movement there.
Brandon Sanford, the third-year guard, the left guard. Now third down over the middle, and it's incomplete. Jackson Sombach comes up with the play. He's got the knockdown, and the Rams defense forces the turnover.
Really good job there by Sombach. Ball a little bit thrown behind of Williams. You get a really good look at it here. As Williams just has to reach back and might have been able to get his hands to pull it in, but Sombach right there to tip it away. And there you get a look at Blake Nill, frustrated probably a little bit right now. See some positive signs from his offense, but unable to sustain these drives and punch them in for any scores here so far in the opening half.
Pass complete to Borsa on first down, but he's quickly brought down by Ryan Baker, the linebacker. They'll bring up second down and 7.
Excellent tackle by Baker. Breaks down right when he gets to Borsa. Doesn't lunge out at him. Knows he's going to have help coming behind. You get a really good look at it. That's excellent technique. Just breaks down, contains Borsa, and makes sure that the Rams running back with his speed isn't able to break it back inside.
Inside 3 minutes to go in the opening half. Now this pass for Stusek, dangerously up over his head. In coverage was Maka Bangura, and it'll be a third down and a punting situation against the Regina.
42 Mitchell Townsend, defensive end for UBC, breaks that play up because he's the one that gets in on Donnelly and forces that ball a little bit high. Donnelly just could not follow through properly. And that's a credit to Townsend and his quick ability off the right side of the UBC D line.
Well, another shock in the Canada West. It's now a final out of Winnipeg. The Bisons remain undefeated, 28-20. The final score. They knock off the Calgary Dinos, who have now lost back-to-back games. It's a dangerous situation here. Ends up back in the hands of the returner, Daniel Appia. But how about the Manitoba Bisons through 3 weeks of the season? Who had them leading the conference?
No, who had them at all? And there you see for Regina, number 30, Braden Wang, had that ball bounce right through his hands. But no, you're right, Darren. I mean, and especially when Des Catelier goes down, you're really not sure what you're going to get. But that is a very sound team looking out at the out-of-town scoreboard. 28-20 the final. We've talked about the Golden Bears trying to get their way back into that game against the Huskies. The Golden Bears 2 weeks ago used all 3 of their quarterbacks trying to find an answer, and the offense clearly still a problem today for Chris Morris.
Yeah, the Saskatchewan Huskies trying to get back to a Hardy Cup. It was Calgary, Saskatchewan a year ago. It might not be the case this year. I mean, You never count out the Calgary Dinos, though. But I mean, you'd have to go back a long way to find the last time they lost back-to-back games.
Yeah, we'd have to look that up as we look at Rooker here on that out and up and a hard pump. They just sails this one a little bit. You want to get that ball out to the sideline. You don't want that trailing back inside where there's more help. But to the point about the standings, for Manitoba now, they're 4 clear of Calgary, and they obviously have a win over the Dinos.
Hold the tiebreaker, no doubt. Now spinning back to the inside, Edgerrin Williams on the reception. He's got a first down with 2:12 to go here in the opening half. UBC would love to put some points on the board before the break.
Good strong throw to the outside. And the quick Edgerrin Williams, I should say, not Soriano. Williams also.
Stusek picks up another big reception on the Rams around the middle.
Stusek just finds that same spot between the DBs in that 2 deep zone coverage that the Bisons on my mind. The T-Birds are playing, and Stusek hauls it in, and this Rams passing attack looking a lot more like what we expected it would be over the course of this season.
33-yard reception for Bennett Stusek. Now on first down, the handoff, no, play action. Beautiful fake by Donnelly. He's got room and lead blockers to the outside, and a gain of 11 for Josh Donnelly, who doesn't use his legs often, but when he does, pretty effective.
Love that call. Really great fake, as you said, Darren. Right there, sells it hard, pulls it out from Borsa, and he's got lots of space. He's initially looking to throw the ball, but he sees he's got so much room and a block who's sick downfield that he can hang on to it and just get himself first down yardage without having to throw it.
First down, Rams from the 15. Up over the middle for Mims, touchdown Rams. The first reception of the game is a touchdown for Deshaun Mims. The Rams go up 22.
UBC lineup 7. Regina picks it up perfectly. Borsa stays in to block, gives his quarterback time, and you're going to take that matchup all day long. Deshaun Mims, one of the quickest receivers in Canada West, able to get a step. And he will haul it in for the touchdown to build this lead before the end of the half.
Tied for second in the conference with 2 receiving touchdowns. That's his third. Galvin puts through the extra point, and the Rams 23 points in the opening half. And
so Josh Donnelly and the Regina Rams look like they really are just that good right now, and the UBC Thunderbirds are looking for answers like they have been all year, Gord.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, perfect. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm not seeing video on our Zoom feed here, so I wasn't sure we were back on yet. It's good to hear our buddy Darren DuPont on that call in Regina, because for me as a UBC friendly guy, that's what the only positive thing about what we're watching right now for them.
Well, the one thing you see Blake Nill on the screen there right now, I know that one of the biggest challenges around UBC has been making sure that there's enough gas in the tank to make sure the program works well. So, there's a focus on recruiting. Some of this focus is taken away from recruiting in terms of, and we might have a turnover there. No, they managed to hold on to it. Is focused on fundraising. Operating a program in Vancouver, the most expensive city in Canada, and operating a program in Vancouver where you have the most travel in the country is really taxing. And some of the key fundraisers had stepped away from the program, so he's had to go out there and raise it dollar by dollar, and that takes energy away from team building.
Yeah, it does. And unfortunately, I think it also increases the turnover rate a little bit. That cost of living that you were alluding to makes it difficult to retain guys year after year, and it's funny, like Blake Nill, one of the elite coaches in this country, a guy that's probably going to end up in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame when all is said and done, I would think. And yet I would say in some cases, this is probably the biggest challenge of his career that he's in the midst of right now. So I'm interested to see how he battles through it and ultimately how it turns out. But, it does just the last couple of years, like I was talking about the roster turnover, it's always felt like one of the first things you could say about the UBC roster was it's young and it's pretty green. And eventually they're going to have to find a way for it to retain their players and keep them together so they can build to a crescendo, because that's ultimately what kind of happened in Blake Nill's first season in UBC. And then ever since they've had a tough time, it seems, getting back there,
Yeah, check out Saskatchewan and Alberta here on the replay. Let's go up to the game in the top corner here on this replay to see what the Alberta Golden Bears had.
Boy, that looks like a forward pass.
Yeah. And it wasn't the cleanest one, but it did result in some big-time yards for the Alberta Golden Bears and a time for a response that they so desperately needed against the Saskatchewan Huskies down by a ton.
Yeah, I mean, since we're dabbling in the gambling on our show now, I guess I'm in favor of this, even though that sure looked like a forward pass to me on replay. Gotta close the spread here.
Anyway, back to our thoughts about the UBC operation. It's been a place that's buried some coaches, quite frankly. Sean Olsen was a good football coach. It was tough going there for him because of some of the structure around that team at that time. Ted Gavaya is a good football coach. He's proving his football acumen right now as the senior assistant general manager in Winnipeg, finding a lot of the talent that you see on the defending Grey Cup champions. I think Lou Laurier was a good football coach. I think Jay Prepchuk was a good football coach. You can go down the line at UBC. It is a tough place since the days of Frank and Casey Smith to coach football in.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, you look at Sean Olsen, Blake Nill's predecessor, and I mean, this is a guy that, despite being a very well-connected and well-respected member of the alumni group at UBC, still wasn't able to get where he needed to get. And there were some missteps during his tenure for sure, but it's just indicative of, like you said, the margin for error at UBC is small. It's not very big. And it's an institution that feels like it has a proud football history, and it does. It's an institution that is a proud academic institution, but the reality is that there's a lot of infrastructural challenges that face UBC, and not the least of which is that per capita, I love BC high school football. As you know, I'm very well steeped in it. Per capita, we just are not producing as much that UBC can access as, say, the provinces immediately to our east. And that's just, I don't want it to be the reality, but that's just the cold hard truth of the matter. And there's a few different factors for that. One is that we play American ball in this province, and that we tend to have more kids go down to the FCS level American schools, sometimes FBS. But Western, very active in recruiting out here. Queens, very active in recruiting out here. Calgary is very active in recruiting out here. Saskatchewan has been more active in recent years. Manitoba has historically always been very active in recruiting out here. And of course, you've also got Simon Fraser across town that still siphons off some talent too, even though they're struggling in their league right now too. But it's like you said, it's not an easy place to win at UBC. That being said, it's also not an impossible place to win at UBC. And we have seen that they can do it. And Blake Neal, being the type of recruiter that he is, he should be able to bring the talent in the front door. But like I said, his challenge has been not so much bringing it in, it's been developing and retaining it, and putting it together into a cohesive unit. He just hasn't quite found the ability to do that yet.
Let's talk about that SFU factor, not just for UBC, but for SFU itself. SFU finds itself in a very interesting place, not just because they're the only Canadian team playing in the NCAA, playing in Division II, but they've tried to offer themselves as kind of like Washington State's Division II alternative on this side of the Cascades. And as much as they're pulling in foreign students in key roles in that organization, it hasn't worked. What's the future for football at Simon Fraser in your mind?
I think that it's very murky, and they have set themselves up so that they're pretty pot committed to playing in the United States and making use of a significant population of American players in their program. They are having troubles keeping kids, just like the school across town. They're having troubles keeping the kids that they get in the front door in a lot of cases. The pandemic and the border shutdowns were they affected SFU more than any other program in either country, in my opinion. The border shutdown made things extremely, extremely difficult for them. Getting students up to where they needed to be and keeping them engaged with the program was extremely, extremely difficult for them. So that, and let's be honest, it's not like they were thriving before that. So it's been a really long haul struggle for Simon Fraser, and I don't know where they go from here. I do like Mike Rigel, the head coach there. He's a good football guy. He got a great resume behind him. I don't know that he was necessarily thinking that he was going to jump into the head coaching role this quickly. But when Thomas Ford left for a job at University of Washington a couple of years ago, he was the guy that was like, okay, well, I guess, I'll take the reins on, and I'm happy to do so. But he's got to kind of put his stamp on the program now. I think their roster size when they opened training camp was something like 43 players, which is like half of what you really need to compete at this level. And I'm not talking scholarship players. I'm talking players, period. And so it is, unfortunately, this has been a theme that seems to recur every handful of years with SFU, but unfortunately it seems like it's a scorched earth rebuild job again. And so they're going to have to figure out how they can get back to relevance. I should point out, by the way, they are playing a non-conference game against Montana State Northern today. And as of last check, they are leading that game by a score of 23-3. So that's some good news for SFU. They have a potential win in front of them today, it looks like. But that's the other thing. When you talk about the future of SFU, I know this has been a lengthy monologue for me, but when you talk about the future of SFU, the other thing is things that is completely out of their hands, which is what their conference looks like. And right now, their conference is a 3-team conference. So the viability, the long-term viability of that is very much in question as well. And it gets to the point where you start to question if they have a place in Division II specifically. Not so much whether they belong in the States or not. We all have different opinions on that, but the way the Division II is shaping out, it may be the Division III is a better geographic fit for them, but I don't know that the NCAA would allow them to do so. So again, lots of challenges ahead of SFU. I'm only sympathetic to an extent in that some of these were foreseeable challenges that they were willing to jump right into, but some of them were also not. And so, it very much is a murky future for the Simon Fraser football program.
What would be the impediments for them going to Division III? There was some interest actually from Vancouver Island University to finding a path to a Division III program some years ago, because there are some of the traditional rivals that SFU had back in the NAIA days that play in Division III. Pacific Lutheran comes to mind, UPS comes to mind. There is a Division III loop that's quite accessible to them that would probably reduce their overall costs in terms of operating that program. Is Division III an alternative?
It's possible. When you ask what some of the barriers are, I think the biggest one is probably the scholarship restrictions at Division III level, which are significantly stricter than those of the Division II level. And Simon Fraser fights a competitive disadvantage there because in-state tuition at especially some of these smaller universities tends to be quite affordable. Now, I can't speak for specific institutions. I know some of them are private schools like PLU, but UPS is a public school. That's the University of Puget Sound. That now provides a competitive disadvantage for Simon Fraser, and it probably necessitates them becoming almost entirely a Canadian roster, which I don't think is a problem so long as they recruit effectively. But I don't know that the people within that institution think that's viable either. I happen to think on the whole that that's a better fit for them. But then again, and there's a lot of SFU dyed-in-the-wool SFU types that would scream at me for this, but I have long said that they belong in U Sports, whether they like it or not. And in my ideal world, they are back in U Sports.
Yeah, but that's virtually impossible for them right now, the way the U Sports bylaws are stated. If you play in the NCAA, you can't shop out certain programs or certain sports into U Sports. So unless there's a significant discussion and someone brings the discussion forward from Simon Fraser, I don't see that happening any day too soon, do you?
Agreed. And we should note that the move down to Division II has been quite successful for them in most other sports. Mm-hmm. They're competitive in pretty much everything but football. So it's kind of a unique program for football. Now, that being said, in the NCAA, there are lots of situations where teams are football-only members of certain conference affiliations. Maybe that's something that Simon Fraser needs to explore, because like I said, it certainly does not look promising on a number of levels, not just within their shop, but without in the larger picture of Division II right now. It does not look promising for their current home, in my opinion.
For people tuning in from across the country, I know the history answer to this, but I'm just going to ask you the question anyway. Why do high schools in BC play American football?
Well, the answer to that is fairly straightforward, and it's when the first BC high schools started playing football, their options for opponents were either across the Rockies in Calgary or just across the border, in some cases 15 minutes down the road on the other side of the border in Washington State. So they adopted American rules to begin with because of that, and then ultimately decided to stick with that as history developed, because let's face it, the Rockies remain a pretty significant barrier. And BC schools still to this day, although this year being a notable and obvious exception, typically go down. A lot of the top schools will go down and play at least one game across the line in Washington State as well. There are people here who have spent their entire lifetime steeped in the American game. They know how to coach it. They know how to develop it. And they don't have much of an appetite to change it. So it remains what it is. I've kind of flipped back and forth on this. Like I like coaching the 4-down game. But, I am a Canadian football. Part of me is a Canadian football purist. Would love for the universality of the entire country playing the same rule set. But I'll be honest, it's not coming anytime soon.
No, and is that in part one of the reasons why BC struggles in terms of some player development? Because the community is essentially divided. They're coming closer together. Certainly the pandemic brought the two groups closer together. But, if those two groups, the community group and the high school group, pooled their resources together to pull in the same direction, would that not end up in a better result for the athletes and coaches?
Sure. And in listening to, Tim from Alberta talking earlier, sorry, I forgot his last name, but listening to football,
yeah.
Thank you. And listening to Tim Anger, Football Alberta's president, talking earlier, one of the groups that has helped put themselves squarely in the spotlight, I should point out, in BC is BC School Sports. And in hearing what things are like in Alberta, I think it is laid bare that BC School Sports needs to do more to support this specific sport as well. And that's where a lot of movement needs to be had as well. But you're right, the alignment issue between the community organizations here and the high schools. Oh my goodness, Carlton. Sorry. And the high schools here has long been an issue. It's not new. It's hopefully moving in the right direction. And I do still think that there's space for both. community organizations can fill in the gaps where high school organizations do not exist or are not thriving. But the ideal alignment is that if high school football is going to exist, then community organizations exist primarily to serve that pre-high school age bracket. And there's some easy ways that the two organizations could get out with each other, in my opinion. But I'm not going to throw those out on a public broadcast and risk upsetting certain people on either side. So I'll just sit on some of the things that go through my head. But there is a potential future that there could be alignment between the two organizations. I just don't know that the appetite is there from either side for that to happen anytime soon.
It's interesting. Shannon Chin, who's the new, essentially she's the new athletic director at the University of Saskatchewan, on in an interview right now. You see in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. She's also on the Football Canada Board of Directors. So it's nice to see Shannon out there for a successful relaunch of Husky football in Saskatoon. Maybe we can just drop in on that interview there for a few secs and have a listen while we watch the dying minutes here of this Queens Carlton game.
Was hit pretty hard, and we had to downsize, so we're running on a pretty small and mighty team.
Against Carlton, but Bill, once again, really impressed by the speed of this rookie Ravens pivot.
Well, and the interesting thing is, can you develop the throwing part of things? Because that certainly, to me, having only seen him today, would suggest why he's not the starter over Van Conant. Van Conant, I think, just got rattled today. He looks like he's a very promising thrower of the football.
And you go back to 2 years ago, and you already mentioned it earlier. The Gales were in a similar situation. James Keenan, through COVID and training
what we
camp and
always say
everything
about
this season,
if he could throw the football, what a dynamic quarterback he'd be. Like right now, Ronaldus isn't even looking to throw the ball. Like these are all designed quarterback draws, and how is that not a penalty?
So Gabe Boucher tossed to the ground after the play, but Ronaldus made a move in the backfield, might have got back to the line of scrimmage.
I was going to say, Donnie, before all that happened, that it's now we can tell our viewers that you and I will be back November 6th because the Gales have guaranteed themselves a home quarterfinal game. And the time on OUA TV, you'll have to look at gogalesgo.com to find out the precise time, and that'll be in 3 weeks' time.
2nd and 19 Ronaldo standing at a 7, hands the ball off. Nope, play action fake, flips it out near side, and then it's well shy of Mullally, his intended receiver on the play, and it's going to bring on the Ravens to potentially punt or potentially give up what would be their third safety here of this afternoon's action. Fourth safety. Thank you, Bill. So Plouffe has punted already this afternoon.
He's done a pretty good job. I've been impressed with.
Well, he did go over, I think it was 4,000 yards
with his
career
first one.
punting, which isn't necessarily always a record you want to have.
No, but.
So he's averaged 41.7 yards on 7 punts here this afternoon.
It is bragging rights when all the punters get together, I guess, and have a few drinks.
Of the soft kind, of course.
Of course.
And this time he's going to dance out the back of the end zone. That'll make the score 45-0. 2:05 to go here in the fourth quarter.
And really, Donnie, people will look at this score that didn't watch this game and say, wow, that's Queens. And Queens, let's not kid ourselves, Queens played a dominating game today. But really, this thing turned on its head with 1:57 left in the first half when the Gales got those 3 straight turnovers.
So, when we start to take a look at player of the game, I would almost like to go maybe players of the game. And we talked about the job of the defense.
You always say this.
This year, today, you talked about those 3 turnovers at the end of the first half, but let's talk about the job this defense has done throughout the whole season. They've averaged giving up 8 points a game, and it looks like that's even going to go down after this week.
Yeah, but we could have given them players of the game every week.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're exactly. This defense allows the Gales to sort of play rope-a-dope football. They can bide their time. As long as the offense doesn't make mistakes, at some point the defense is going to give the offense, put them in a position, and then the offense will take advantage. It's a great way that the Gales play, and this defense, you're exactly right, keys this team. And today, they made 2 of those turnovers were by the defense. The other one was on special teams, but they came with 1:57 left. They resulted in 13 points. I'm sure Steve Snyder will say this week in his press conference with the media that would have liked to see 21 points there, but it really, I think, put Carlton on their heels coming into the second half. And then again, the Gales just bided their time and produced more mistakes. And next thing you know, you've got a blowout.
The key stats numbers that we've been able to harvest and cull from U Sports stat sites. The Western Windsor game, 54-10 was your final. 630 total yards for the Mustangs. Keon Edwards, 171 on the ground, 2 TDs. When they're going on the ground, you're not going to stop the Western Mustangs.
Yes, that's exactly the truth. And the one game they lost this year was the one game where they lost the rushing yardage, and they really bounced back this week. So, we talked about earlier in the show, we talked about, Windsor taking advantage of a sloppy Mcmaster effort in their win in that game. And Western just quite simply took much better care of the ball in this game and didn't give Windsor those opportunities that they needed to be able to pounce on to potentially pull the upset. And let's be serious, it's still an upset. Windsor has had a good season, but it's not Western. They're going to take a few years to build there, if they ever build there at all. So, it's obviously still a little bit of a ways off for them, but let's hope they're able to bounce back and finish the season strong, because they still very much have a chance to get into the playoffs here. And wouldn't you love to see that as a different face in the playoffs coming out of that OUA West? And I, to be honest with you, I can't remember the last time Windsor was in the OUA playoffs. I don't know what season that was. It's been a few for sure. So it would be nice to see a different face there when the chips are down and it means the most.
Yeah, it's been nice to watch the rise of Waterloo in the OUA and all the work that Chris Bertoya's put into there and the Ford brothers, and how they've produced, because there was a time, and it wasn't that many years ago, where there was serious talk about ending that football program in Waterloo.
Well, yeah, I mean, we all remember the death penalty scandal that they had there, the whole steroid scandal that basically shuttered that program for a year, and there was some debate whether they come back at all. Interesting, by the way, that we're pointing out these upstart programs, head coached by ex-Greg Marshall assistant Chris Bertoya and head coached by ex-Greg Marshall assistant JP Straselli. So, and the other one that's the up and coming is Queens, head coached by ex-Greg Marshall assistant Steve Snyder. So, even if Western doesn't end up coming out of the OUA, the Western influence is all over the OUA.
Well, former Western quarterback Mike Faulds, the head coach at Laurier, was on the better end of a 22-0 decision over Mcmaster. Laurier had 9 sacks, 4 turnovers they forced throughout the day, and 2 of them led to touchdowns very early on in this game. Little disappointed when I look on the Mcmaster side in terms of in some of these games preparation and then execution and ball management.
Yeah, and really uncharacteristic for Stefan Potasic team. And the turnover thing has been their bugaboo pretty much all season long. And now they find themselves in, I think this puts them at 1-3, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a pretty big hole to climb out of in a competitive conference. So, yeah, like I said earlier in the program, I think they're going to be pretty disappointed in this effort coming out of it, because it's going to feel like they never gave themselves a chance to win. They turned the ball over early twice, and both of them turn into majors by the Laurier defense. And at that point in time, it's tough to make it. It's tough not to just fold the tent at that point in time. You would expect that you wouldn't at this level, but it is hard. There's a lot of momentum working against you. And the theme for Mcmaster this season is they continue putting themselves in bad positions by not taking care of the ball and not taking care of details. And I can only imagine that Steph Potasic and his staff are more frustrated than anybody that that's become a theme for this team.
The Varsity Blues win the Argo Cup with a decisive victory over York. Toronto won with 139 yards of total offense. I mean, York coughed up the ball on a couple of occasions. They had opportunities to make this game a lot closer. Cody Hale had a 49-yard interception return to lead the way for Toronto.
Yeah, and I think the surprising stat there is that Toronto didn't rack up more yardage. Clay Sakara, an experienced quarterback, a guy that has shown the ability to really move the ball down the field. He's got Will Corby in his receiving core, who's a top-notch performer at the OUA level. There are some weapons there in that Toronto offense, and obviously they did enough to get the job done. And it was close through about 2.5 quarters in this one before they started pulling away. But a little bit disappointing, or not disappointing, surprising, I should say, that Toronto didn't put up more offense than that. But that's just, unfortunately, that's kind of an indication of how non-competitive York was today in a lot of cases. That this is arguably the biggest game of their season, and you put up 2 points, and their offense has been struggling all year. I don't know if they've settled on a quarterback. I know that they were working back and forth between a couple different guys early in the season. But yeah, that's one of those programs again that you're waiting. And I would say both of these programs kind of fall into that camp to some extent, but the program that you're waiting to see, perpetually waiting to see if they're going to turn the corner. And thus far in my time around the OUA, they haven't.
And, the game of the day came out of the AUS. It was Bishops and Acadia, 15-14 the final. Louis-Philippe Gregoire with 125 yards rushing, 2 TDs. By my count, that's his third plus 100-yard game of the year. Maybe the early candidate in the AUS as their representative for the Heck Creighton. There's a few others that might have the title on that. Silas Fina, the quarterback at X, is a guy that pops to mind, who's number 2 in passing in the country. But what a fun game to watch that was.
Yeah, it was a lot of back and forth, and it wasn't a poorly played game either, right? It was the two teams taking turns stopping each other. It was a grind to score points, but it wasn't like you were seeing a lot of sloppy play, a bunch of turnovers, missed field goals, things like that. You didn't see that game dictated by that. You just saw a tight, competitive game that came down to a couple of key plays. It looked like Acadia was actually going to win this one on a key mistake by Bishops on a 3rd and 2 quarterback plunge, where one of the Bishops D linemen lined up offside, and it looked like Acadia had driven well within field goal range, and then they missed the game-winning field goal. And Bishops is able to run it out, preserve the 1-point lead. But it was one of those games that fell into that nice sweet spot where it's not perfectly played enough to be boring, and but at the same time was well played for the most part, so you get yourself an entertaining 3 hours of football.
What was entertaining was Calgary and Manitoba. That game looked like it was going to be a blowout early, and Manitoba found a way to make adjustments at halftime. And then, like when Manitoba runs well, their best athletes stepped up. And that's what they've always done with Brian Dobie teams, whether it's an Anthony Coombs, whether it's a Nick Dembski, whether it's a Jamel Lyles. When those athletes step up, Manitoba does well, and that's what we saw this afternoon in the second half of that game.
Yeah, Montreal Baku, for example, had an excellent second half for them, and we always love when he has good halves because it gives us an excuse to put his name out there on the air. Tuchinski was excellent for them in the second half too, and you alluded to it, but Brian Dobie's teams, they always have weapons, right? They always have guys. I didn't see Gavin Cobb's name pop up a lot today, but he was the guy that looks like maybe the next kind of Coombs, Kean LaFrance type character in the making. And had a fantastic effort against Alberta last week. But, I alluded to it early in the show, and I put it on Twitter this week. Like, Manitoba is my #1 team in the country right now. And that's because, for starters, they're undefeated. But I think people are sleeping on these Canada West teams because the Canada West started late, right? We got used to paying more attention to the OUA and the RSEQ. And so now we see silly stuff like a 2-loss Laval sitting at 3rd. And don't get me wrong, do I think talent-wise Laval is one of the top 3 teams in the country? Absolutely, I do. But does the resume show that? Well, no, they've lost 2 games. Let's be fair here and call a spade and give teams credit for what they've actually done or haven't done.
Well, Gord, I think that'll wrap it up for us. I think we'll help the Canada West sell some subscriptions if people want to tune in to either of these 2 games. I think it's been a great experiment today. It was great having Marshall Ferguson on in the first 2 hours, even though the Canada didn't see the first hour of doing this. But thanks for coming on in a pinch. I know you're over on Vancouver Island right now taking care of other business. So thanks for sharing your time with Canada to deliver this first Rougezone. And I really hope this is something that we can do again. I see a place for this particular project happening every Saturday to connect people across the country with this great level of the sport in this country.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a great initiative for us to be taking on, and congratulations to you for doing so and putting this all together. I know there were tech issues off the top, but it's a great idea, and great ideas will always find their place eventually. Just don't count on me having 3 hours to spare for you every single Saturday. Okay?
No, you have a football team to coach, which sometimes gets in the way of these things. But
unfortunately, they're very selfish that way.
But I do appreciate you stepping up today. So that will do it for the Rougezone on Football Weekend in Canada. Look, there's a couple of other things coming up. We have a piece on our award winners that's coming up on Sunday. We have a piece on the Cornish Trophy, having a new digital home coming up on Sunday. And on Sunday, we also announce our Canada's Football Mom of the Year. So you won't want to miss that. But for everyone that threw this together at Hubcast, and Adam Kordick, who was running shotgun with me on this thing, I'd like to say thank you to them. And thanks to every one of you for watching. So hopefully we're back one of these days with another Rougezone. Thanks, everyone.